Hey, what were you just doing?
It's
You
just
were doing some sneaky stuff over
I
there.
was just making sure that the level was right and doing everything I could to not look at the really stupid opening intro this time.
I love that.
You love what?
That's what it's going to be from now on.
The stupider the better.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Totally on brand.
since we've gotten our act so together and everything seems to work, and I probably shouldn't say that.
But watch, somebody's going to say, "We can't hear you."
Can't hear you.
Hi, everyone.
P
is for power. Hey, everybody.
But you know, it's almost like it's getting everything set up and having it up and running is no longer full of angst, and I think it's kind of taking away legitimacy from the show.
Yeah. We kind of need some gremlins to come in when we're not here and like really wreck stuff. So when we walk in, it's
that's the thing about a lot of these, YouTube shows. They sort of lose something, and do they ever admit it and say, "Yeah, we kind of lost our edge. You know, we're just treading water."
Do we ever have an edge to lose in the first place?
Well, the edge was the result of just being woefully incompetent and not giving a shit, you know.
Just rolling in here sideways.
Yeah, sideways.
2 seconds to go.
Funny you should mention sideways. I was just in Seattle a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, and the woman in the seat in front of me, I could see in between the chairs that she was on her laptop watching the movie Sideways.
Oh.
And oh boy, did I want to just say, hey, could we, the person next thing, could we trade places so I could watch it with you? Because that is a hilarious movie. And just that brings back great memories. Of course, my favorite whole thing about the entire movie was the line, the one tagline that nobody else, anybody who doesn't remember anything about the movie would remember this.
Lay it on us.
I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot.
And by the way, we're not going to drink Merlot tonight.
We're not going to drink.
I can smell.
We're not drinking any fucking Merlot tonight. No, sirree.
What do you smell right now?
I smell. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to tell you what I smell. We'll all find out soon enough.
I know what's happening.
But
I requested it, actually. It's all my fault.
But yeah, I mean, I was thinking earlier today that I was actually cleaning up the studio, organizing cables, wiping dust off, putting things away that have been laying out in partly open boxes for months, and doing all this stuff. And I was just thinking, you know what we need is a good old-fashioned train wreck. And so if we don't create one tonight, just know that we'll be trying our level best to figure out a way to.
So our Guitar 78 says we look and sound fantastic. I am taking that to mean that we look clearer this evening. Is that the case? Because that would actually make sense, because this guy got a gear upgrade over here.
Finally.
Graphics card. So
finally.
It'd be great to hear, get your input on that. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. And by the way, everything that you saw, you were the first one to jump on about the 2150. We're all about that tonight. We're going to get to it. In fact, if you want a little Easter egg, go on the Fryette Instagram and look in the stories, because we just put up a little video about some of the goodies we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
Great. Nice picture quality. That's wonderful.
So I've stopped trying to run the show on my laptop. And the only reason I was running the show on my laptop is because I had this older laptop that was still Windows 10. And I don't want to hear a word about Mac. Sorry, I'm not listening to you. Blah, 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 blah. This one particular version of the Windows install did not cause this dropout, that thing that that stop motion thing that we were experiencing.
We had the robot effect.
Yeah. And I tried every other computer we had in the company, and none of them were any better. And that last show before last, where everything was really kind of gray and cloudy looking,
Oh yeah,
that was
we had
one of the more
purple
powerful.
haze. Oh,
That was one of the more powerful workstations at the factory that I realized that needs to go too. So over the last 2 or 3 weeks, new workstations, a new server, all new software. I mean, we went all out, and a new high performance wireless transceiver in the building. So
you did that too.
We did
Damn.
everything. And oh my God, everything is so zippy fast now. It's scary. You just breathe on something. And
I remember that because I was in the shop last week, and Steve was in his design programs. And he was like, look at it do all, like he could zoom in and out of stuff and it didn't stall and act stupid. And Steve was like, watch
this.
You can just zoom in and out.
Watch this. So I took a 3D model of an amplifier chassis design that we're working on, and I zoomed it out to where you couldn't see it.
Yeah, like the screen's blank at that point.
And then so I just pressed the button to zoom back in, and it was like Star Wars. The game,
yeah,
like right up into your face. And
yeah,
and then I could take it with my and I use a trackball, and I can take the image with my trackball and spin it at 360 degrees, and it doesn't chop. It just goes.
I know what he's doing all Monday.
This is what I'm doing. Woo! New toys. So yeah, yeah.
Steve's comment, money.
Yeah, we spent a few bucks, but I mean,
you have to.
Just about every 5 years. I mean, it seems like a lot of money, but over a 5-year period, the amount of productivity that we get out of this stuff, it actually on a daily and weekly basis, it works out to just a very small amount of money.
Yeah.
It's just that you get it up and running, and you deal with updates, and as you update things, they get slower, they get progressively slower and crankier and blah 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 until it's time that this shit's got to go, and we reach that threshold. So we got new systems for work, and while I was at it, I got a new desktop for the studio here, and boy, does it make a difference. And everything works on it, and everything loaded in a fraction of a second. I would do this, install my really heavy duty CAD circuit board design software.
Yeah.
It just, usually I have to go through these steps and wait and blah, blah, blah. I just hit this button and it's like, zoop! And I'm looking, okay, what happened? Why isn't it working yet? And I went, oh, it's already installed. It's done.
Wow.
It's waiting for me to mentally catch up with what just happened.
That's fun.
So, and the way it works is we have this huge design database that resides in the cloud, and it's backed up at the company, and all of that. So
cool.
So whatever I'm working on at work,
you have a laptop right at your bench.
I have a laptop at the
workbench.
I have my workstation, and I have this, and they all see the same stuff at the same level of proficiency. And it's just, I'm like getting so much work done. It's scary. And it facilitates other things too. Just about when you know something is going to work right, when you know your processes are functioning, it makes you more productive. It makes you feel more productive. It makes you feel more like I'm getting stuff done, which makes stuff get done faster. I mean, it's kind of a self-feeding thing. And so I'm just flying, and I'm having such a blast.
You actually really seem, in general, to be, not that you were ever like grumpy, but in the last year since you moved, every time I talk to you, you're just like, shit's cool. Like, And I know you're working insane hours, but I can tell you're just really enjoying all of this stuff.
It's really
Maybe
bizarre.
more than ever.
It's really bizarre.
But it's clear to
more
me.
than a long time that it's because there's, this, all the stuff that you're working on, the videos you do, your own projects, the projects you do for other people that are time consuming and brain consuming. And when the process becomes effortless, you feel like I'm actually utilizing the energy that I bring to the table. When you want to do a task, you want to get it done, you want to do it well, and all these little things that get in your way are what makes you.
That's the drag.
That's the drag of it. All this friction.
Mm-hmm.
When the friction's gone, you're like going, like a kid going on a water slide. It's like, that was great. I want to do that again.
I'm totally not in this kind of shape right now, but in the past, when I was really into running, I remember this particular time period where I could just leave the house, get out, and run for a good half mile at a really fast clip before I even noticed my respiration starting to rise. Mm-hmm. I was just flying. And it's just an amazing feeling of like lightness. And you can experience that same sort of thing in your work life when your systems are supporting you. And it's not dragging, or, you're dealing with insane supply issues, or this sort of stuff that you had dealt with through COVID and coming out of all that nonsense. We haven't talked about that stuff recently. I don't know if that's still, as prevalent, but I'm not hearing about that. I'm just hearing about how much is getting done and how much you guys are screaming.
Well, like, for example, Canada dropped their 25% tariff. So now the Canadian dealers are all going, all right, we need to order, we need to reorder, we need to stock up now, quick, before anything changes. So it's very chaotic. It's just pure chaos out there. And if that was all that we had to deal with, life would be pretty miserable. But we've got all this momentum going on, so we can basically shut out what's going on in the crazy chaos infested outer sphere.
Yeah.
And because inside our organization, we just basically have people going, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want that, I want it now, and then I want another one, and it's like that all the time. So we're usually just cranking, and I'm the team are getting more, everybody's sort of getting more used to working with each other in the new factory. I say we've been there 2 years now. Do you believe that?
No. 1 year.
Erico says 2.
2?
It's 25.
Yeah, it was last year.
No, it was the year before last.
There's no way.
I know. That's what I said.
I'm gonna look this up, because if it's 2 years, my brain is.
I said no way too, but I believe that I was proven wrong.
I want to know.
But the new place does have something going on in that building that makes everybody feel like when you're there, you don't feel the crush of the insanity outside of our little thing.
There's great energy in there, man.
It's just killer energy. So that just makes everybody feel more like getting things done. And when they're doing,
no, you're totally right.
I'm totally right, aren't I? And I didn't know I was right. Erica was right.
Yeah, because we did a Chatsworth 1 year later last fall.
Yeah.
God,
isn't that sick,
man?
Isn't that sick? Yeah, I know.
I'm not really happy about that. That's not really good for my memory.
You mentioned running, and I haven't been out doing my hike for quite some time. I've gotten out of the routine.
You would be doing it right now.
And
I would. Hot child in the city right now.
Yeah, it's way too hot now. But still, the place. One of the reasons I was doing that regularly is because I really liked the place where we were doing it, which was the the Temescal Trail down near Malibu, which is all flattened now.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's all closed off.
Yeah.
And we haven't found another place that we want to really go try that again yet. But I'm feeling that it's time to get back on that routine. Just because I have the energy, regardless of the fact that I'm turning into a fat slob. That's just another thing. But there's just so much cool stuff going on, and I'm just jazzed. I'm jazzed, I tell you, jazzed.
Well, it looks like everybody here in the comments are jazzed to talk about power amps.
Power amps. Well, yeah.
We just jump right in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Mark.
Oh, you know, that's a fact, Mark. But I had to question it because I need to organize my brain. It's not so much going, Eric goes wrong. It's like, why am I so wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where your anchor is obviously set in the wrong place or something
exactly.
like that.
Yeah.
But the demo room thing, that's so great. We had all kinds of people come in the last week or so, 2 weeks, just to come in and hang and check stuff out. We had Stan Cody from Fender. We had Lyle Workman came over, and actually he and Stan came together, and Stan did his level best to pull the rug out from under Lyle, seeing different amps and seeing that if he could trick Lyle into not knowing what he was playing through, and pretty successfully did that.
Man, with the Z-Max.
Yeah.
Lots of shenanigans.
Yeah. So we
had... And John was asking also about seeing that Tom Anderson stopped by last weekend.
Tom Anderson came by, and he wanted to try out a GPDI.
Yeah.
He does a couple of different things. He plays a gig, and he also plays at his church. And he had just seen the reviews, he'd seen the videos, and he just texted me one day, man, I got to have one of those. So he came over, we hung out, we had a nice chat, which we filmed. So you'll be seeing some of that. And he took a GPDI, and I just figured, okay, let's see how it goes with him. And a couple days later, he texted me, God, I love this thing. And I'm like, okay, cool. Not, I mean, I don't like to, I do not like to count my chickens, right? So I usually, when
it's
man. Somebody that's, in our circle and they haven't experienced any of our more recent stuff, I'm curious what their take is going to be, because we have this long-standing relationship, just the friendship thing, the mutual respect kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And but when it comes down to actually one of your friends buying a piece of your gear or vice versa, that could actually test a relationship if somebody doesn't like something, and you have to be gracious enough to go, yeah, I understand it wasn't for you.
Right.
But so I always prepare myself for that, so when somebody goes, damn it, you did it again, kind of like, I thought I was gonna be able to poke you in the forehead this time, but nope.
Yeah. I was there for Tom coming in, and that was really fun because it was the first time that I met him.
Yeah.
And I've owned several of Tom's guitars through the years, and it was really fun to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
He's a really great guy.
I got some a perspective realignment from him that was the most unexpected thing that came out of that conversation.
You texted me that line, and then we never revisited it. Can you articulate that?
Yeah. We all get in our little boxes.
Yeah.
And we operate in those little boxes. And you have these things that you do by habit or by skill set or just out of pure, inertia. You just do these things over and over again.
Yeah.
And you can you can lose sight of the appreciation for these gifts, these skills that are basically handed to you. You know, you sort of tend to take them for granted. And so I kind of downplay it because I don't want to get like all full of my own gas.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I tend to tamp that down. And he said, and we were talking about the difference between companies like, you know, Tom Anderson and Tyler Guitars and Riot Amps and you know, Bugner and the various these guys. And he said, you know, the thing is what we all do is we operate at such a high level of he didn't say perfection. He just says we operate at this high level of attention to detail.
I remember when he said that.
That it isn't even a matter of competition anymore at that point. There are companies that are just pouring truckloads of product into the marketplace, and they don't care if it's in the landfill 6 months from now or not. And then there's companies like us where we pour heart and soul into these projects, and we apply all the skills and experience that we've learned in doing it. And we are constantly doing that, which means we're constantly raising the bar, not to try to raise it against somebody else, but raise it for ourselves.
But all you guys, the Valley Gear guys, your generation of guys who did that, who we all know who we're talking about, because we talk about all these people. I mean, that's really the circle we're talking about. Everybody who comes on the show knows everybody we're talking about.
Right.
You're all like that.
Right. And,
you know?
You know, he pointed out that about the fact that it isn't anybody trying to one up anyone else, because Tom says, hey, you know, we were talking about him helping some of the other guys work out how to use CNC machines and all this, because he was an earlier adopter of that.
Roger and Jim.
And
John
he said, he just said, you know, it's not about knowing something that the other guy doesn't know. It's about,
oh, look at this shreddedness on top. Oh, thank you, Erico.
Cheers.
Cheers. Hold on.
You're right. It had.
Cheers.
It was about the coffee. Oh man, look at this.
Oh, just smell that.
You know, I didn't even have to drink it. I could just inhale it. Coffee, like the super extra deluxe Nico-chan coffee espresso martini. Yeah.
Okay. So I got Erico turned me on to the Mr. Black
liqueur.
Yeah, it's a cold brew liqueur to make these. And I picked up a bottle last weekend. And so I made 2 myself at home. And I can gladly say hers trounced. This is insanely good.
Mine attention to detail.
Yeah.
Laser focus on obsessive compulsive disorder. You know, that's what basically Tom was saying. It's just like, hey, if I can impart some knowledge on one of my peers and it just makes all of our stuff better, then that's a beautiful thing. And I just went, holy shit, right. And so I really appreciate it. I came away with a new sense of dedication to this ethos that, well, it just has to be right, and it just has to be a kind of excellence in execution. And it's not hard work. It's just when you operate that way, and I think that's what he was saying, when you operate that way all the time, you're just in that groove. You don't even think about it.
I can't talk right now.
Yeah.
I inhaled some of that.
Oh, you inhaled some chocolate. Oh. So anyway, I really
okay. I can talk again.
After not having had a one-on-one conversation for him a long time, just it's one of those guys. Just knowing he's there,
yeah,
is enough. But
you are my friend.
But even further, having him come over and articulate that just made it even more
What I thought was really
a
cool,
grounding experience.
because we kind of started off talking about how, as an iterative process, you just did all the upgrades of the, the IT stuff at the shop.
Hey, Amanda.
And Tom was talking about that iterative process and how, and we kind of got into this, like jam, talking about the idea of, even if you're not directly improving the actual end product, you're still looking at the processes that go into making that product.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always looking for a better, more efficient way to render that level of quality in every area of the business. And it's that kind of thing that's like the spiral staircase that keeps getting you up every day and like excited to do it.
Well, there is that. There is also the thing that drives me and drives the company, which is you can keep throwing more people at a problem, and that doesn't necessarily solve the problem. It just increases the number of people that you have to deal with to get to the solution, to get to the resolution, to get to the point where you can move on to the next thing. So being of the mindset of learning something new every day and being able to apply that to what you're doing every day kind of helps counteract that what is that called, that concept of energy that induces friction, that slows things down? There's a word for it.
Well, I think of entropy.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. When entropy starts setting in, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You can feel the whole thing starting to slog a little bit. And yeah, I mean, changing out the computer systems and upgrading a lot of that stuff, that went a long way towards breaking that sense of entropy is getting in the way. But the tariff thing and all the uncertainty and all the manufacturers, whenever we want to buy parts, whenever we want to get something custom made, a piece of metal, a chassis, a cabinet, a transformer, whatever it is, when there's a lot of chaos and uncertainty around every process, it gets frustrating. So I feel like I had a long conversation with one of our transformer suppliers. We have 3 at least.
Was that just this week?
Yeah, it was last week, and they were saying, a lot of times I deal with their head engineer. So we're working on a transformer design, and the guy is always really great. He's always got solutions, suggestions. He always just jumps right on things. And I said, how things are going. He says, well, from the engineering standpoint, we're getting a lot of people contacting us to, to quote, to propose a design and blah, 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 blah. He says, but the workload is kind of backing up because some of these bigger companies that they deal with are not actually executing on the order part of the process yet, because they don't know what's going to happen next. They don't know how many quantity they should order, how many of the product that this part is going to go in is going to be produced. And he said so the engineering guy says, my part of the task, I'm busier than ever, but the production people are doing a lot of smaller jobs, and there is this sort of there's this sort of like a logjam in there that they're kind of feeling anxious about. And I'm like, well, they keep we've been working with them a really long time, and they know that when I give them a project to design something, that I'm doing it for a reason. And that as soon as we approve the sample,
Yeah.
they're going to get a PO. And
So you said you've been working with them for a long time. Do you remember the first product that you worked with them on? What was it?
That was, well, there was 3 things simultaneously that we were doing with them. Part of it was, it's a really funny story because I never even had heard of this company.
Okay.
We were dealing with a company called Jackson Transformers that was about a quarter mile from where the factory is now.
Oh.
They are long gone. But some guy showed up at our factory one day and said he was repping for this company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave him some things to quote. Some of them were new projects. I think we were working on the Pitbull 45 at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good solid.
Wow.
Good solid 30 years almost.
That's cool.
To the point that the original sales representative retired.
Oh, man.
The original design engineer who was a partner of the company, died unexpectedly, 15 years ago. And then one of the other principals retired and handed the company off to his nephew. And I mean, there's been all these changes, but they still managed to maintain the same ethos, right?
Love that, man.
And they're very, very good at it. But yeah, so this guy comes in and I give him 2 or 3 things to go work on.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is this new project, was actually the 5012, which became the 45.
Wow. Yeah.
And then we gave him the transformers for the Pitbull Classic
Mm-hmm.
head and combo. And I think that was the original 4 or 5 things that we gave him to do.
Yeah.
And we got really busy, and I'd forgotten all about this guy. And then one day I was going through, get this, I had a folder of works in progress. So I'm going through pages and pages of faxes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's right.
Towards the
That
90s.
rep. I hadn't heard back from that rep. I wonder what happened to that. He came over with this big spiel and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I gave him some stuff and then butt kiss. So I called the company and
All hat and no cattle.
and I asked for the rep, and I got this kind of halting, who? And I said, blah, 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 blah. I'm looking for blah. And well, could you hold, please? And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Right off the bat,
So the vibe's getting weird?
the vibe's getting weird.
Okay.
And then another guy gets on the phone, and he turns out to be one of the principals of the company. And he says, I'm so-and-so, I'm the general manager, and blah, blah, blah. And the rep that you're asking for, he hasn't worked for us for about 6 months. And in fact, he's no longer in any way associated with the company. So if he contacts you again, please, something very bizarre. And he said, so I apologize that your quotes didn't get followed through on, but if you're still interested, and you want to give us a chance to pick up the pieces and move forward with this, we'd be happy to.
How did you feel at that juncture? Were you like, yeah, this is janky? Or were you
No,
like,
no.
like
I mean,
this
I
guy?
totally got it. He was just basically saying, you know what, we hired somebody, and he turned out to be like a
Did it feel good that he wasn't airing all the dirty laundry? Like, okay, that's professional.
He was very pro about it,
Yeah.
and he was also very sincere. Look, I got all your stuff here. I've got the folder. I see your stuff. Yes, we'd be happy to quote. And he they banged out quotes like by the next week,
Okay.
and then we started working with him, and And okay, so what's your lead time going to be? The usual 8 to 10 weeks. He's like, okay, well, these two pieces, those will be 2 weeks, and this one we can get that done in a week, and the other one will be 4. And I'm like, get out of here. They delivered the stuff.
Was that too good to be true?
It was,
numbers?
yeah, it was spot
Okay.
on. They were clean. The workmanship was great. They sounded good, and it was like, rest is history.
Man.
So yeah,
that's so cool.
And at the same time, Jackson, the company that we were working with, it was originally the grandfather's company, and the father was taking over, and the son was basically running production, and the grandfather had already retired, and the father wanted to retire, and the son didn't want to take over the company. So they made a deal to sell the company to a buyer, and that there would be this transition period where the principals would stay on while they made the transition. And right off the bat, everything started just going to shit.
Uh-oh.
So fortunately, we had a fallback. And so while this one company is just cratering, this other one is like kind of like falls on their face initially, and then they come through like champs. So there's all this, just the whole dynamic of that.
Yeah.
And the fact that here it is like almost 30 years later, and where it's still a phone call.
Does running a company like yours wind up feeling a little bit like playing a video game? Like it's like, do you know?
I don't play.
I don't play video games either, but
I don't even know
I used
video
to
games.
When I was a kid.
The last video
do you know what Sim City is?
The last video game I played was the little critter that was eating stuff. Pac-Man. And I wasn't even really into that.
That was a long time.
The one that I was really into was Pong.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, in Sim City, like you're a manager of a city, and you're in charge of, you're like a city planner. You're like everything in a city. You have to make sure that all the citizens are safe, and they have utilities, and then there's enough food, and then natural disasters happen,
and there's no lead in the pipes.
Yeah. And so, running a company, it's like everything's awesome. Oh no, our transformer supplier is taking a digger. You know what I mean? Or your tube supplier is
I'm listening.
Where'd you go?
I'm listening.
But that's what it's like. I mean, you have so many things that you have to deal with just to get one of these products made. That it's always, it would seem that if you could embrace it with, the right mindset, that it's fun. It's like playing a game. And I have seen you guys, you and Erico, navigate things, because I've been able to see things a lot closer the last several years. And it's interesting. I think I probably came along after you'd been doing it for so long. I don't watch you guys lose your cookies when things go south. You really kind of get some news that I'm going, whoa,
yeah,
you have to move your factory like immediately.
Yeah.
And I kept scanning your faces for like, where's the stress? And you're like, no, we're just going to, this is when it's going to happen. This is how we're going to do it.
That was a particular thing where we already knew that we were living on borrowed time in that place. It was just too small.
She's been kind of prepping mentally. So when it happened, okay, fine, it's happening now.
It was almost like, okay, this is fucked up, and the way these people are treating us is like really, really stupid. This is businessman arrogant stupidity. And like, really? You jerk offs have all this money, and you're in the real estate business, and you're dealing with people and clients, and it never occurred to you that you could just sit down with me and go, look, this is what's going on. This is what we need to get done. And this is the kind of bind we're in. And I know it's short notice, but, we've got a little wiggle room, but we need to get this place vacant as soon as humanly possible. But there's a window. And if you can tell us what you can do, maybe both of us can help sort of ameliorate each other's problems
short-sighted.
and get through this. What do you think? And I would have said, absolutely, I'm all in. Whatever we can do to help facilitate the problem, this is what we're going to need from you, blah, 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 blah. And if you can help us with that, we'll help you with the other part. No. It's like, okay, you're out in 30 days. I know you have a lease, but fuck you. We're going to just push you out, and then you can sue the hell out of us if you think you can win to because we broke your lease, and go fuck yourselves.
What are you doing?
Like, what are you doing?
Just
And you know what was funny about it? Was they said we had 30 days to leave. And I said, this was in June. I said, we can be out by September 1st. If we can find a suitable place, we'll be out by September 1st. No, you gotta be out in 30 days. Why? Well, we've got we've got
they totally didn't follow through on what they said.
we've got bulldozers coming, next week. And I go,
bullshit.
I just said, okay. I see that you're used to dealing with stupid people.
That's exactly
or people that you can steamroll over. And I'm not one of them. Sorry.
Right.
First of all, you've recently had a company come in here and drilling holes in the parking lot. You know why you're doing that? Because you're doing a soil test. That soil test has to go through administrative hierarchy in City of Los Angeles. That ain't going to happen in 2 weeks. You're not going to get approval in 2 weeks. You'll be lucky if you get that in 6 months.
We're in LA, the land of red tape. And,
Then you're going to have to get approval for your plans. And then you're going to have to, plan materials and do all that stuff. You're not going to be ready to knock down buildings for at least a year and a half. So there is no imperative that we have to be out here in 30 days. I'm totally calling the guy out.
Your bluff.
And he's going, well, hey, I'm just the messenger. And I'm like, dude,
now you're
the one that's signing the letter that says we have to go. It's your signature on it. You're not just some messenger boy. You're enabling all of this. And what you know. I'd actually researched the guy's company, his building management company, and all the properties around Southern California that they manage. I said, come on, man. I know that you know that I know that you know, and you're not going to push me around and go, you know what? Fine. You let me know the day that the bulldozers are coming.
Steve's asking, are the buildings still standing 2 years later?
They actually finally knocked them down
they
6
did,
months
but it
ago.
took exactly.
6
it took
months
a year
ago.
and a half.
It took a year and a half, just like I said.
Yeah.
And by the way, the leasing agent, the original real estate agents that found the place for us.
Yeah.
He said the price they paid for it, they're going to be losing money on it in the first 5 years. And so I knew that they were upside down anyway.
And you guys wound up in such a
we
better
wound
situation.
up in a perfect place.
By the way,
we were all mentally prepared for that. And
we're going to get to everybody's questions from the beginning of the show. We always do this. If you're new to the show, we shoot the shit for a while and then we get to the actual point.
Well, that 15 minutes of shooting the shit is now 45 minutes. So I think maybe we should switch
transition to power.
Anyway,
I saw Bruce Nelson's here. Bruce, you need to come on the show again. And I really need you to build a guitar. I got to reach out to you and see if you have.
And by the way, Tim Pierce flipped over the guitar too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh,
everybody
awesome.
that, of course, that plays the green one flips.
Yeah, there he is.
And
the man.
It's just Lyle came over the other day and he played it.
Did Lyle play it?
I showed him. He played it before.
Oh.
And he was like, wow, what's this? And so this time I had him play a couple of different things. He goes, oh, yeah, this is nice. This is nice. And then I handed him the Nelson one again. He goes, yeah, this is what I was waiting to play again. I was just like, wow, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Bruce is in. Yeah,
right.
You got to come on the show again. And yeah, we got to talk.
And you can try one of these coffee espresso martinis.
These are. So Erico made one of these. Was it in the last show? I think it was the last show, and it inspired me to get that the coffee liqueur.
Yeah, Bruce, the real greenie, not that bullshit Metallica greenie.
Oh, and Bruce, I don't think you saw the last show. I think it was the last show. We were trying to come up with names for that finish that's on Steve's guitar, and somebody. Steve had a really morbid one, but somebody here suggested neglected swimming pool green.
Yeah.
Oh, Bruce saw it. Okay.
Yeah,
I love that.
And that's something that Tyler would have said, right?
That who?
Jim Tyler. That's a name he would have come.
100%.
Yeah.
It's almost a Jimism.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, should we segue into the power amp talk?
Sure. Well,
Cool.
why?
Any last remarks?
Why would now? No, I mean, all the building is great, and everybody knows why we moved, and that we are enjoying the new place, and that it's making us more productive, and happy, joy, and all that. Why I wanted to talk about power amplifiers is because it's one of the neglected aspects of amplifier design that still a lot of people don't really understand. It's tube amp. But why is that important? What is different about it than a solid state power amp? And why do we still cling to these and love them and swear by them? And we'll talk about the various aspects of those, but I'm not going to talk about really why that is, because I don't really have a good answer for that. They just do. It's just a continuum. It's just a thing that there are enough people that do understand what a good sounding tube power amp brings to the table, whether it's the power amp section of an amplifier or a separate power amp in a rack system or a preamp power amp system or the tube power amp aspect of a reamp device like the power station. There are just enough people that do understand, recognize, and appreciate what that quality is, that the rest of the people that don't understand it but respect those people's opinions keeps the momentum going, I think, and keeps the interest going. And they demonstrate that it's a legitimate thing that they experience by watching them and listening to them play and listening to them talk about it. And a perfect example is this recent Tim Pierce video where he just humbled the crap out of me by releasing this video that said the best tube amp invention ever. I think there was a little bit of a clickbait aspect to that, the way he said that, but not because he doesn't believe it. He absolutely does. And he calls me all the time and texts me all the time and goes, God, it just is, man. It just is. Every time I try to, somebody tries to convince me of something else and I go, yeah, maybe you're right. And then I check it out. And then I come back to this. I go, holy crap, what was I even thinking? This is the thing for me. How he describes it is a little different. He talks about the warmth of tone.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on this new kick now where I'm not just going to let a position like that slide without a little background material to give them so that they kind of understand it intrinsically. Maybe they don't need to understand it intrinsically. Maybe it's good enough that, hey, it just sounds warm to me. It pleases me. That's why I'm all in on this. Great.
Some people, that's all they need.
That's all they need.
Some people are hungry for the entire story.
But I do have a lot of fun when Tim and Lyle and Stan and they all came to the factory in the last week, and I got to show them something that they probably never directly experienced before. And that is, I had them play through 4 different amplifiers. And I got
which amps?
The high watt DR504 in 1975.
So 50 watt.
The high watt 1972 DR103.
The 100 watt.
The Sound City
Master 100.
Master Lead 50.
Oh, okay.
and the Sound City Master 100 head,
Oh, that's fun. We've
and the
done that.
Deliverance
Oh, yeah.
120 connected to the GPDI in its effects loop, and all of them going through the power station.
And all this being switched by the ZMAX.
All of those being switched to various cabinets through the ZMAX.
I wish everybody on here could come experience that. It's
very
so fun.
And what I was able to do is show them all these different flavors. And then with the help of Stan from Fender, who's, first of all, he's really into big amps. The big amps, the big clean headroom, the big thing.
This guy after
He's
my own
totally
heart.
into that.
Yeah, that's
Second of
my
all,
favorite.
he's a raving maniac over the Sound City
He would.
Master Lead 50.
Oh,
It's the
50.
It's the perfect
Not the
amp for him.
100.
It's, well, he digs the 100, but he lives for the 50.
Okay. Does he have one?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He's had it for about a year.
Oh,
And
man,
he just
that's
like
awesome.
he's every time I talk to him, he's like, I still love this thing, and which is fantastic. But anyway, here's the thing. He kind of got into the conspiracy with me with Lyle, and while I'm doing the talking, Stan is doing the switching, and Lyle's playing, and he's kind of listening to the differences and go, yeah, I kind of get the difference. I kind of get, but, and after a while, Lyle's going, wait, what did you just do? What did you do?
That happens.
And Stan is like, I just switched from this to that. Wait a minute. You switched from that to that? And he goes, yeah. He goes, but they sound identical now. What's up with that? And we did that with all those 4 amps, plus the Deliverance, plus the GPDI. And how we got them all to the point where a really experienced player with unbelievable ears and killer chops went, I can't tell you exactly what I like, what it is about each specific amp that I think sounds best, because at some point they all sound almost the same, equally as good. And if I had to pick one, I would pick, and he picked the D120, which I thought is the last amp that he was going to pick, because he's a low gain, loud power amp, pushed power amp with the power station guy. He's not so much of a gain guy, but he's got a pedal board with gain, distortion pedals, gain pedals, this boost.
But the Deliverance can do a lot more than I think a lot of us think.
Right.
On the surface that it can do.
Once he got settled on the idea that he was playing through this amp that he thought he normally wouldn't appreciate, he starts getting sucked into it.
Yeah.
And then I didn't do this because I didn't want to be presumptuous, but Stan doesn't have that thing where I didn't want to come across like I'm pushing stuff on him, right? So I'm taking
right, but Stan doesn't care. He's got no dog in the fight.
They're buds. He's got no dog in the fight. So he's just like, he's just trying
to fuck with.
Yeah, he's trying to fuck with him as much as possible. So that took it off my shoulders. I just get to sit
and then
back.
Also with the Deliverance, I'm sure you didn't have it set up like we're gonna make it this alien in the bunch. You're kind of setting it up to match the high watt. And
to get it in the same ballpark,
which it can do. Yeah, especially the 2+.
Right. So we went through all that exercise, and then he ended up going. If I was going to walk away with one of these amps, that's the one I would walk away with.
Wow.
He's got he uses divided by 13s, and he's got a Comet.
He just did. He was out last year with Sarah McLaughlin, who one of my best friends in the world is Sarah's drummer, and so they were on the road all last summer. And I went down and checked them out. We went and saw them in Palm Desert. Like there were no tickets available at the show at the mall.
Yeah.
So we went down to Palm Desert and saw them like super close. And Lyle sounded fantastic. And it was all that. What did you just say? What brands is he using?
Oh, the divide by 13.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah.
So, you know,
using a slew of Fender inspired guitars.
but he also, before that, he was out touring with Frank Black, and for that,
Oh, that's
he
his
specifically
thing.
wanted to take the Power Station. So he picked up one for that, and you know, but the thing is, the thing that I actually got to do to show them, kind of make the point I was trying to make, was to get the volume set between all of them, so it almost didn't matter where the tone controls were set.
Oh,
or the gain controls were set. It was just the playing volume. I got it reduced. I got them close enough, not exact, close enough that you could detect the differences between the different personalities. And for sure, there are different personalities between the Hiwatt 50 and 100 and the Sound City 5100, and absolutely between the Deliverance and those 3, 4,
right.
and especially the GPDI between that and those 5.
Wildly different power.
Wildly different power.
Amps. Yeah.
And I got them all to where that they were pushing the power amp stage of the PS100 to exactly the same level. And when I did that, he could not say definitively,
right,
that's what I'm playing through. That's what I'm playing through.
Yeah, you've done that to me. And I wind up going, okay, I'm tired of, like,
Yeah.
I can tell I'm trying to see what you're doing with my peripheral vision. I'm like, I'm turning around and I just want to actually do this completely blind. And I get lost.
Yeah. And then the only thing that he took, the next leap that he took after that was Stan kicked on the solo mode on the Deliverance. And
now
Lyle went, wait, what did you just do now? And he says, oh, I kicked on the overdrive of the Deliverance. And he's like, I never use overdrive on tube amplifiers, but I like that. And then he starts playing and he goes, whoa. And I think it was maybe not the first time, but probably the first time in a while that he experienced this kind of overdrive thing in an amp without having a pedal in line. And I think when you do that, the similarities using a boost or a distortion pedal with the gain, with the overdrive barely turned on, so that it's just adding a little extra sizzle and sustain.
Yeah.
When you do that with a pedal on an amplifier that's medium gain, sounds pretty good. And then when you do it with a tube amp with the same amount of gain added, that sounds good too. But it's not so much about, and this is what I really wanted to talk about overall, which is it's not just about the sound, it's how it feels under your fingertips and what it makes you do physically that allows you to throw yourself into it that's different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've always felt about tube amps, is the right combination of player and instrument and amplifier will draw you into a place where it doesn't really matter what you're playing anymore because you're happy with what you're playing, and then you forget about that, and then you're off to the races doing creative stuff.
Yeah.
And so there is definitely a psychoacoustic component to why we like these amplifiers and the things that they do. And one of them is that, as illustrated by this experiment, is when I turned the amp up, like for example, the 50, he's playing through the Hiwatt 100. And then I switched it to the 50, but I set up the power station so that when we switched the 50 on, the actual volume of the power station was louder than it was through the 100. And so he thought that
you're really jacking with.
I'm totally.
No, yeah.
And he was hearing that going, oh, you switched to the 50, right?
You're right.
No, we switched from the 50, the 100 to the. We switched from the 50 to the 100, and then we switched back to the 50. And he's like, but the 50 is more overdriven, but now it sounds cleaner because I turned the volume up on the 50. through the power station and made it a little louder than the 100. And what did he do? Without even realizing it, he backed off on his pick attack, and that made it sound cleaner. And he was baffled as to why the 50 all of a sudden sounded less overdriven, or the 100 sounded less overdriven than the 50, because I turned up the volume of the 50. He didn't turn the guitar volume down. He just picked lighter.
Well, that totally makes sense to me.
Because that kicks in that fight flight response where you just you just being unaware that you're lightening up, you're backing off on the pick.
Oh yeah, because you're kind of ducking in a way.
Yeah, you're involuntarily ducking
Yeah.
your pick attack to compensate for it's louder and I'm going to get smacked if I dig in.
Yeah, but if you had the 50 watt running louder, you're getting closer to saturation level on the 50 anyway, so it's going to have more of that,
Yeah,
the
but the
gaining kind of thing
PS 100's got more headroom, so you back off on the. Then you're going to automate, because it's louder. You're going to back off on the pick, and then the amp will clean up.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and then you're all of a sudden. Then you're going, wait a minute, this sounds cleaner now. Lyle, you're picking lighter. No, I'm picking about the same. Okay, I switch back to the other amp, and then he realizes he's not picking the same.
Yeah,
because now he has to dig in a little more.
Yeah,
to get this. He's like.
Oh,
he's like looking at me. Come on. So then he backs off the guitar one notch, and then he hears this big, clean, expressive thing. That's the 100, right? No, that's the 50.
Oh man, I love that. I would get lost.
I am doing this more for me because this is what I believe. This is what I've experienced. This is the ethos around which all the amplifiers are designed. And if I can recreate that experience in somebody else's experience and watch them observe it, it helps reinforce that phenomena and the narrative. To me, I feel like I can say this with absolute confidence and 100% veracity that this is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And all my experience in doing power amp design work supports all of that. This is why I don't get hung up on whether it's a 6550 or an EL34 or a 606. And let me tell you, high watt, Sound City, 50 watt amp, 100 watt amp, all four of those amps are EL34 amps. The Deliverance is 6550s. And the GPDI has the little preamp tube that's mimicking a power amp. Not once in that whole time, that whole hour and a half that those guys were at the factory playing with all this stuff, not once did anybody go, what tubes am I playing through now? Not once, because it became irrelevant. And that to me was like, that was satisfying because it was a validation of that point of view, that this really is important, it really works, and is the basis of the behavior of our amplifiers. So I think that I pretty much wanted to get that whole sort of idea out there to you guys, so that and ladies, so that you could wrap your heads around it while we talk about the differences in the power amps. So we started out making power amps. It was a fluke. Actually, we started out thinking that we're going to make an amplifier, and we made a prototype, but the thing that we started producing first was a power amplifier, and it sold really well, and it filled a void, and it how
did you pivot from that first amp to the power amp? You just said it was a fluke.
It was
Can
a
you
fluke.
tell that story?
Well, I took the Pitbull prototype around to stores around the area and players around the area.
Yeah.
And my clientele, and loaned it to them to demo it and all that. And getting feedback, and I like this. I'd like to hear. I'd buy one if you put it in production, and that kind of stuff. I was getting that kind of reinforcement. And then I went to Browers, and I was showing that to several people and several artists, and a bunch of people were walking through the doors. So I left it there for a week, and more people were coming in and checking it out. And then when I went to pick it up, one of the guys that worked there said, you know, the power amp section of that, we put a preamp into the effects loop and played it through the power amp, and it sounded really good. You should make a stereo power amp.
That is a fluke.
That would kill. And I just went,
That's wild.
I went,
Who does that?
well, you know what? I didn't even have to try that because I had already done that, and I had dismissed that as, I thought, you know, I would do this for myself, but I didn't think anybody would take notice of it. But just out of happenstance, they had a couple of preamps at their shop, and they plugged them into the power amp section of that amp, and they went, oh my God. And they weren't getting that kind of behavior. I mean, the you know, Lukather was and Eddie were using the HHVH100.
Right.
And that was kind of de rigueur, you know, that was the one that everybody was supposed to buy. And like, oh, wait a minute, this is kind of like,
Wasn't the Macintosh around?
yeah,
then?
yeah, but this was the kind of thing where people were playing through this big power amp, and they were doing just what people do today. Mistaking what the power amp says that it's doing with what it's actually doing. And I was able to demonstrate that really effectively, but they had already proven it to themselves without knowing it. And what they did by putting the preamp into the power section of the Pitbull prototype, which was a 4EL34 watt output stage going into a cabinet, an amp that had a presence and a depth control in it, this is like 87, 88.
Yeah.
Well before anybody had done anything, well before PV had patented their brilliant resonant circuit design, which was, they did in 1991 or 2, but it was the circuit that I designed and started using in 1987. So it had that. It had those controls. So that meant that it had the ability to tune the behavior of the amplifier to the behavior of the speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And once they heard that, they could not figure out how a 100 watt amp was smoking a 400 watt amp. And I just went, I know why, but I'm not going to explain it to them because it's going to go over their heads. I don't care. They're excited. And the owner of the one of the partners in the organization asked me how much it would cost to make 10 power amps of this ilk. And I said, I don't know. I don't have an amp company. It's just a prototype, you know? Well, what would it take to start a company? I haven't a clue. I don't know.
I love this story.
And the guy says, well, do you think you could do it? And I said, if I wanted to do it, yeah, I would probably do it. I could do it.
Because you were still playing.
I was still
doing
playing.
That whole, yeah.
I was still playing, but I was really disgusted with the industry.
Oh, okay.
And I was kind of tired of, you know, the kind of gigs that I was getting, and I was working on original material, but I wasn't that, I didn't have enough drive or enthusiasm behind that to go shove it in anybody's face.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in this, you know.
You were in a phase of like, what's going to be the direction?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
I was floating.
And so this guy comes to you and goes, here's a direction. What do you need? And
yeah.
You're going,
pretty much has a checkbook out and says, how much do I have to write in this checkbook to get you to commit to do this? And me being a complete dope about doing a startup business, let alone running a business, I just kind of pulled a number out of my ass and said, well, this will probably get you, like off the top of my head, this will probably get you 10 or 20 power amps. And wrote me a check and handed it to me. And I just went,
Oh, isn't that when you hopped on your bike and
Yeah,
got the hell out of town?
I went, oh shit, I
for
think I
Vision
just committed
Quest?
myself to starting a company and I don't know if I'm ready to do that. Yeah, so I had to go air my brain out for 3 or 4 days out in the middle of nowhere to figure out if I really had it in me to commit to this project, or else just go back home and give the guy back his check or tear it up and say, sorry, I ain't up for it. But I mean, I learned
Was
something.
there a point on that trip where it just clicked and you went, no, I'm in, I'm doing it, and I feel good about it? Or did you come home still kind of shaky?
I think that my feeling was, here I am on a nice little Harley out in the middle of nowhere. I've got a sleeping bag and a tent, and I've got some money in my wallet, and I got a credit card, and there probably isn't any situation that I can't figure my way through while I'm out here. So I don't feel like I don't know where I am or what to do. I'll just keep driving until I feel like turning around and coming home. If I'm still interested in going, I'll keep going. And then when I decide I've done enough of this or seen enough of this, well, I'll turn around and go back home. And on the way back home, I'll decide. So I went through that for a while. And after the fourth or fifth beautiful park in the middle of nowhere where I pitched a tent and heard, little animals and bears and deer and elk walking around my tent at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, sniffing around. You could hear a bear right next to the entrance of my tent going, just sniffing. And there's a human in there, and me just laying still, going, if I stick my head out of this tent, it'll either get bitten off or I'm going to scare a small animal away. I don't know, but I don't want to find out. I'll just wait till sunrise. So I went back to sleep. And I woke up the next morning, and this really nice family from England had rented a Winnebago and were crossing the country with their 2 kids. And they invited me over to their table, their picnic table, for breakfast. And they were having beans and tacos and salad and stuff, and they just
Tom, I was thinking the same thing when he said that.
they were just the nicest people, and I'm this scruffy looking guy with leathers.
Look at the long hair.
Yeah, and they just totally like
beans.
introduced me to their kids, and we had a really
Yeah.
nice conversation. Where you been? Oh, we're heading over there. Oh, we were just here. It was lovely, and we had a lovely conversation and a breakfast. Thanked them very much. Packed up my shit on my way, and I just kind of went about my way. And then on the way back, I just started thinking, I can really literally do whatever I want. And nothing is stopping me from deciding at some point I'm going to rejuvenate my interest in music and go
That's true too.
focus on that. So I just decided it's not a mutually exclusive decision. I can just park that. I've already parked it.
Sure.
So
life isn't binary as long as you don't think that way.
Right. So I called the guy up when I got back, and I said, all right, I'm going to start working on it. I've already started making phone calls. I've hooked up with some suppliers, and I just found it just so ridiculously easy to reach out to the local electronics distribution companies and stuff. I'd already dealt with some of them.
Yeah.
Working at Valley Arts, buying little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And the only difference is now I'm just going to buy more parts.
Yeah.
At a time.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger quantities at a time.
And I can probably get a better deal now too.
Exactly. So yeah, I just kind of slid right into that, kind of painlessly. And from that, the next thing happened, and I just went, this is just too easy for me. Almost, I don't know. It was very low friction. And we talked about at the beginning of the show about friction.
So I think kind of doing this sort of autobiographical journey through this, I think it would be a good time to pivot and talk about what's sitting just to your left, because that's where we're at in
Right.
the development, right?
That's right.
So Pitbull, you're trying to get that off the ground, and then, whoa, wait a minute, now I'm doing power amps, and then this happens.
Right. So I call up this transformer supplier, and I told
Jackson?
him, yeah, I told him what I needed, and I knew about them from working in a repair shop. So when these guys
Yes,
came,
Tom, 2150.
when these guys came up with this request that can I make a stereo power amp, I said, yeah, I mean, I was living and breathing power amps when I was a little kid,
Yeah.
so I kind of knew
It's the first thing you had built.
Huh?
That's the first thing that you'd built, audio-wise, electronics-wise.
Yeah.
These little power amp
Yeah.
kits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just went to the local surplus store and bought parts, and I got the transformers from these transformer guys, and the rest of it was just like wiring. I just scratched the circuit on a piece of paper and then proceeded to put it together, and boy was I blown away when I turned it on and tubes didn't just rocket out of the thing. You know, I was just like, I expected fireworks, I expected all kinds of excitement, and what I got was a is this on? I'm testing, like, everything's on.
It's alive.
So I plugged a preamp into it, plugged it into a cabinet, and played an E chord, and I went, oh my God. It just, I was just shocked, you know.
Check it out. Da-da-da.
And this is it. It's this aluminum box that I got from a local supplier. And those 3 big transformers were made by Jackson. In a week, they made these things. And those big blue capacitors were surplus capacitors from the surplus electronics store, the same place I got the chassis from. Those were Fender surplus filter capacitors out of a Fender 400 PS basic.
Oh, wow.
And that amp had been discontinued, so
Yeah.
Fender used this
Wait a minute,
surplus.
we talked about that this
Fender
year
used
on the
this
show.
surplus parts company to unload all the pots and capacitors and
Yeah.
leftover parts from discontinued production items. And so I grabbed a couple of those, and I started drilling, marking up a chassis, drilling holes, and grabbing pots, and I just cobbled the whole thing together over the course of a week or so in my apartment on my dining room table.
I don't know. I'm actually going to tip the camera so people can see a little bit. Like,
So there's
I love this in the
There's
back. Caution.
caution. What?
No,
Caution! Don't look back here. It's too.
Just don't look back there. Yeah. There's views. And then a clear look at this front panel. Can you see that okay up there?
Yeah, let's take this off.
Yeah, let me take this off and then I'll just pull the camera. Yeah. There we go. Sorry for the shaky camera work, guys. But
Yeah, that's what eventually became VHT, Valve Harmonics Technology. Just something I made. Actually, I came up with VHT first, and then I had to make that up because people
Valley
kept.
heroin transport.
Yeah, I had to make something up because people kept asking me what it meant, and I didn't have any good answers. So I just started making shit up, and that was one of the first things I made up. And I decided that was too pretentious sounding, so I replaced it with anything that I could think of, or anything else that anybody else could think of.
Should we flip it over, or do you want to talk about the top?
Yeah, no, there isn't much to talk about the top. I just drilled holes and mounted stuff on the top, and then I turned it over,
Yeah, turn it over.
and started building the guts. The real nice thing about that was those transformers on the side. They served as a nice a chassis stand because they had so much weight that So I put the transformers on first, and they became the stand that supported the chassis so I could install the parts.
Okay.
So this is the gut shot.
Yeah. So we'll look at it from here, and then I'll take the camera off again. But
So an A channel, a B channel, the impedance selector is pretty simplistic. No frills, no nothing. Just, is this going to work or not? And if anybody's really paying attention, they would be thinking, hey, wait a minute. This guy said that why don't you take your EL34 power amp of your Pitbull and make that stereo, put it in a stereo power amp chassis, and we'll buy it. And those aren't 4 EL34s. Those are 2 6L6s per side. And what I had decided was that putting 8 EL34s seemed to be kind of really redundant to me. Basically, what I wanted is 100 watts per channel out of the thing. And I knew that the power tube tonal characteristic wasn't going to be that different. I could make the amp behave one way or the other just by, you know, massaging the circuitry in a variety of different ways. So I didn't really feel compelled to make it with EL34s. I felt compelled to make it work first and foremost.
that was some Dave Reeves wiring action in here.
Yeah. Yeah, my little imitation of Reeves is solid core filament, the gray wires in there, the solid core filament windings done Reeves style, just for fun.
That's pretty cool, man.
And well, I mean, there was a practical reason to do that, because you twist the filament wires together and lay them down on the chassis, and that's where they introduced the least amount of noise into the audio circuitry. So it was very, very quiet, actually, for how crude it looks. So when I presented it to them, they just flipped out, and nobody said, why doesn't it have EL34s? I basically said, at the time, 6550s and EL34s cost about the same. There wasn't a big price disparity between the two. And so I reasoned that we could make it for about the same price with 4 6550s instead of 8 EL34s. And that would also make it less expensive to retube when it came time to replace the tubes. So I just thought this is efficient, and it's cost effective and easy to service. And the tubes are designed to run in pairs at 100 watts. It's right on the spec sheet. You do it this way, they will do this. No big deal. So that's what I did, and I showed it to them, and they went, okay, good, we're off to the races. And then it went to production. Yeah, so there was a certain amount of, let's just get this up and running and make it work. And then if they say anything like, well, this is okay, but you know, we really want to hear. Well, they didn't say anything about the tubes. They basically just said, when. Okay, works, great. You proved the proof of concept is legit. So onward and upward. And that became the test bed for the original 2150. And then we made 100 odd 2150s with that basic topology. And then once we had done that, I learned a bunch of things about the design and how I could improve upon it. And then after that, we went full bore into production of a large production run of the 2150 that became the revision 1, which basically used the same transformers, but this powered the phase inverter circuitry became more sophisticated. And the reason that it did that was because I started to learn that there were things about power amps that I actually knew before. And I knew this, but it didn't really register with me on the time. And that was that the whole concept of stereo was going to be um, was going to be an issue, was going to be a conversation. And the reason I discovered that was because I discovered that power amps that were already out on the marketplace didn't have a great stereo separation. The independence of the two channels was not great. And I learned this when I was a kid reading test specs of hi-fi amplifiers, and there was this spec called crosstalk. And once I learned what crosstalk was, I realized when I built this amp that I had built something that had probably more crosstalk in it than a hi-fi amp would be able to get away with. But nobody seemed to notice it, but I started noticing it. And then one day Bradshaw called me and asked me to come over and listen to a rack that he had built.
Mm-hmm.
And he had this rack that he was replacing the customer's H&H power amp with the 2150. And this was the very first series of the 2150s. They were just starting to turn their customers onto these.
Sorry, real quick. Who was the first notable user who picked it up?
Oh,
Who you went?
Well, I think it was Living Color was the first.
Vernon?
I think Vernon was the first guy that really jumped on board.
Wow.
I mean, there were other guys that were starting to pick up on it, but Living Color was starting to have some massive success. And when they contacted Making Music about, hey, I heard you guys got a bunch of
Malcontents tech at the time before he went to work at Mesa.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so he was one of the first guys to sign on, and it was like, wow, I love this guy. He's a crazy guitar player, but I just love the whole concept of Living Color. And I thought, well, this is going to be great.
You know, I have a funny picture. I sent this to you years ago, but I'm going to find it. Laura Schooler and I went up to see Vernon cut a record in Woodstock. And the day after, we wound up having lunch with Vernon.
Oh, I remember.
And I was talking to him about this. And I actually, this is so funny. I'll show it to you guys. There's Vernon. You probably can't see it, but
just says, hi, Steve.
Yeah. Sign on there. Because we were talking about this very. Oh, shoot, it won't focus. Anyway, this says, hi, Steve. And it was directed to you. Yeah.
That was so cool.
Yeah. And we were talking about it from his perspective, you know, when the band was first blowing up and he got a hold of one.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Okay. I just wanted to know who the first guy was.
Yeah. Well, he was one of the first. I mean, there was a couple of local guys that wanted to be the first, you know. And I have records of all the very first 100 of the people that they actually sold them to. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, so Bradshaw shows me this. He set up this rig. So he's got a V800 and a 2150 in this rack, and he's switching between the two of them. And the stereo image is going like this on the 2150 and like this on the H&H with a stereo effects processor in the signal path.
Yeah. When
it was just a mono signal, it didn't matter. But when it was a stereo image, the reverb got decidedly smaller in the 2150. And he goes, what do you suppose is causing that? And I said, crosstalk. And he goes, crosstalk? And I said, yeah, there's better stereo separation in the V800 than there is in the 2150. Well, why is that? And I said, because I didn't think anybody gave a shit about crosstalk. And I was just trying to make a really simple, straight ahead, uncomplicated, bare bones circuit interpretation that more people would cared about how it sounded
And it was coming from the pitbull plates first.
It was coming
an
from
amp.
yeah, right.
Not like I'm designing something for rack applications
Right.
and thinking
This was coming from the sound of a power amp section of an amp
yeah,
that people said they liked.
yeah,
So that's why I wasn't too hung up on what power tubes. They said they liked it, and that means that they liked what they were hearing, and that meant that there are qualities and elements in the sonic structure there that I can do. It doesn't matter what tubes I'm using, I can do it with this or that tube. So that wasn't really the challenge. The challenge was get that authentic sort of flavor out of it.
yeah.
And I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the crosstalk. I knew there was some there, but nobody else paid any attention to it, and nobody picked up on it. Bradshaw, being the OCD cranky old fart that he still is, he kind of
And he had his head in that all day long,
all
every
day long, and so
that was his business.
I don't even think he was probably working on Lukather's rig, and I don't even think Lukather noticed it. I think Bradshaw just noticed it, and he would be the kind of guy that would go, "Hey," you know.
Yeah.
And so I respected him enough to go, "Okay, I'm listening. I'm listening." And so I went right back, and I redid the input stage and the phase inverter stage so that they would have two completely independent circuits that did not share any preamp tubes. And to this day, most of the power amplifiers that our stuff gets compared to are amplifiers that are based on, in some way, on the original design of the 2150 or the original designs of the Mesa power amps, which also had a lot of crosstalk in them.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they shared an input stage, the very first voltage amp input stage. They all shared this thing of one side of the 12X7 was the right channel and the other side of the 12X7 was the other channel. The crosstalk was happening inside the tube.
Yeah.
And I just went, oh,
that's an easy solve.
There's going to be two things cool about this. Number one, I'm going to solve that problem because I understand what the problem is and I understand how to solve it. And the other thing is all these other companies that are already making these power amps that have them in full-blown production are not going to change their designs.
Yeah, they can't pivot.
So they're not going to be able to pivot, and that's going to give us an edge. And that's going to be a selling point. Listen to the stereo separation on this. And people will go, it went from this to this.
That's funny. So we can credit Bob for really bringing your attention to it and like changing the whole.
And it was enough of a, now I had learned something about me that I didn't really think that much about before, that started with the starting of the company, which is some guy handing me a check and throwing me down a challenge, drawing a line. Oh, yeah. I just realized that a challenge was the thing that triggered me, that gave me the kick in the butt, made me want to prove something, I guess.
That too, man. Without a challenge,
you're definitely
fart in the wind.
That's right.
You know?
So I saw that as a challenge, and then I met that challenge, and then it turned out to be a boon for our power amplifier designs. And then all the designs that flowed from that, the Classic and the 292 and the 252 and the LX2, they all benefited from that one little key thing.
That's so cool.
And that became our signature.
Wow. Yeah.
So to this day, that's one thing. One of the two critical things about the character of power amps and the facility, the utility of power amps, good quality power amps, is that that when, and you see this all the time, you see it on the forums, you see it everywhere. I compared the Fryette, whatever model, doesn't matter which model, I compared the Fryette power amp to X other brand. And I heard a substantive difference, not anything mind-blowing, but I hear a substantive difference that is not really enough to make me spend an extra $500 to have that.
Or are they listening in mono, like with one channel?
That's the key. They're listening to one channel of our amp and listening to one channel of every other amp and going, the differences are really kind of subtle. Okay, three things are happening. Number one, you're playing at a very low volume. Number two, you're playing it in mono. And number three, you're not pushing it hard enough to where the things that really make it different they rise to the top of the barrel.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like driving a Prius and a Maserati around the block at 10 miles an hour and go, yeah, I don't know why I should spend an extra $280,000 for the Maserati. Really? I mean, right? And okay.
One of my favorite things is driving. Well, not that I get to do this, but all those old cars from the 60s, like even grandma car, Oldsmobiles. And you're like, yeah, it's a grandma car around town. But
Yeah.
Oh my God, laying to that gas pedal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, in this particular power band, you're not going to see the differences.
Right.
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 Yeah. So how did you deal with kind of trying to educate the public?
I'm still dealing with it. We are still dealing
You're
with
like,
it.
I'm not sure how to do it.
This is why we're having this show, because we're still dealing with it and we still have to talk about it. And what is salient about all of this is that now we're comparing two power amplifiers that have crappy crosstalk
Yeah.
with two power amplifiers that have really good crosstalk specs versus Class AB solid state power amps that got mega power and solid state power amps that are Class D, that are super efficient, lightweight, relatively low cost. They have all these positive attributes to them.
Yeah.
None of which make them a great guitar power amplifier. Makes them a great product that makes it a great
That's an interesting point.
a great solution for a lot of things. I mean, I will never say that the development of power amplifiers into the Class D realm is a bad thing. I'll never say that.
Trade you. Thank you.
Because
Yeah.
yes,
Thank you. Erico did a different recipe for my second.
oh
one.
great, I want
And
to
you
try
gotta
that
have
too.
it.
All right, I want
The lemon peel one, please.
Ooh, you shouldn't have given it away.
Well, we had a little
Mm,
discussion
mm,
in the kitchen.
mm.
I thought she had changed the underlying spirit to gin.
So okay,
Yeah,
don't say
I
anymore.
won't say anything more. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing, Class D. All right, so
Yeah.
you imagine yourself in a giant auditorium that has the rows and rows and rows of sound reinforcement speaker systems.
Yeah.
And behind those systems are rows and rows and rows of power amplifiers hanging from the ceiling. Tens of thousands of watts of potential power hanging from the ceiling. If those were Class AB solid state power amps and there was an earthquake, 3,000 people would die.
Yeah, dude.
And 3,000 people die would probably anyway, but they
I
would
know what you're saying.
also be crushed in another myriad of ways. So when you're thinking about an auditorium, a major auditorium sound system, especially an outdoor sound system,
Yeah.
and the amount of weight, the amount of cost, the amount of power that you need to generate, the electrical energy that you need to suck out of the city's power grid to do it is immense. So if you can go from 50% efficiency to 80% efficiency, in other words, use 30%, literally minimum 30% less electricity to produce the same amount of power, that's a 30% reduction in the kilowatt hours that you have to suck out of the grid to pay for. So in all kinds of ways, the weight, the cost of the units, the cost to operate, the cost to
right.
maintain this
I was going to
equipment,
say that one. Yeah.
it's immense.
Right.
And in that application, it's a major economic boon,
But that's not the point.
but that's not the point.
It's
it-
everything but.
It's everything but the
Yeah.
point. In a guitar power amplifier, you don't care about the grid. You don't care about the weight. You don't, I mean, do you care about the cost? Okay, sure. But really, when you're talking about the cost of a comparable performance of amplifier, then the cost calculation starts to change its dynamic. And what I mean by that is, okay, so let's take the LX2, and literally
Let's take the LX2.
let's take the LX2.
It's right here.
Um,
Crossfade.
now, this amp has probably,
So let's just set the stage.
first, this is 50 watts per channel. This is the
And this
LX2.
is the latest iteration of your thinking on stereo power amp
right,
technology.
but it's still not that far removed from the original 2150. The differences are that it benefited from the very next revision of the 2150 that resulted in the improved crosstalk.
Right.
And then that became a staple with all the designs going forward from there. And and we'll get to the questions, but one of you mentioned something about, the cost of compromise. Well, there's always a compromise that revolves around cost. And you always have to think about when you're making a new product that's going to be why are we introducing a new product? Because people want less weight, they want a smaller package, they want to make it more portable, they want to maybe spend a little less money. There's all of these things, but we want to be able to do all those things without sacrificing sonic quality. So the compromise,
The main thing.
the
that we keep talking about.
the compromise for us becomes, how do we get all of the sonic objectives that we want to achieve with a power amplifier of this power rating and not waste any money in the execution of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's
Right.
now if there's anything that screams overbuilt, overly expensive execution in a product, it's the 2150. That thing is so overbuilt, and it was overbuilt out of ignorance.
Yeah.
It was.
You were a noob.
I was a noob.
Yeah.
Because I didn't
crosstalk thing.
because I didn't have the engineering background to design a chassis. I designed it to be overbuilt because I didn't know what kind of forces it was going to be subjected to. So I had to design for the worst case.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And later, I had the same attitude of our Guitar 78, overbuilt to last forever. Well, the Volkswagen, a 1950 Volkswagen, will pretty much last forever.
Yeah.
It's
At
not
least a lifetime.
It's not overbuilt. I mean, it's purpose built. So it doesn't have to be overbuilt to last a lifetime. It can be purpose built to last a lifetime. And this is where I start learning how to slice and dice these concepts and how to apply wisdom and experience to them to get to the point where we don't need this much weight. We don't need this thick of steel. We don't need it to be 4 rack spaces when we can do it in 3, when we can do it in 2, when we can do it in 1. What we're dealing with is we're eliminating wasted space. Wasted space. There isn't a wasted bit of space inside this amplifier.
Right. Look at the 2150.
Compared to the 2150.
Yeah.
We used to laugh about the 2150. It's like, not only is it a bulletproof power amp, but you could ship a couple of kilos blowing the thing too.
Valley
and
Heroin Transport.
make some money
bro.
on the side. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the mentality in the early 90s, late 80s and early 90s was, how many bricks of a Colombian can you put in there, so you can subsidize your income while you're touring. This is not that. This is decidedly
Dave Mustaine did use your RMs.
Yeah. This is a decidedly different approach, which is about maximizing the performance and minimizing space.
And you learn which things really count and which are completely superfluous.
And which, what makes it really, when you say it that way, it just makes so much sense and it's so logical. And it's why I laugh every time we come out with a new product, especially when the LX2 first started to hit the market.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing people said was, "It's never going to last. It's going to overheat and the tubes are going to break." Excuse me. By the time the LX2 was released, which was 2012, I believe, that meant that we had been in business 22 years. 22 years. We had been making top quality stereo power amplifiers for 22 years. Did the person that got all hair on fire about broken tubes and heat think for 1 second, I'm saying this online, I'm pulling this comment out of my ass over a company that's making superbly reliable tube power amplifiers for 22 years, but sure, all of a sudden they're going to release a product that for sure guaranteed the tubes are going to get smashed when I get it home.
Holy shit, we didn't think of that.
And if they don't get smashed, the thing is just going to catch on fire. And I'm going to call my lawyer as soon as it arrives because I know there's going to be a lawsuit. Who says stuff like that? So when we started seeing this, we were just like going, "Oh my God. Did you even think before you hit?" No, you did not think for 1 second before you went to the keyboard and went, "I'm going to go out on the internet world and tell everybody what I know from my armchair in my living room with my scotch and my cigars. I know."
That actually sounds like fun.
And it actually does sound like fun. Yeah. We made one Chrome 2151.
Wow.
There was never the impetus behind that because it was really expensive and a pain in the ass to make. Where did it go? We did it for the classic power amp, but we didn't do it for the 2150.
Where did that 12150?
Oh, it's put away.
Oh, you have
it's in the archives.
It wasn't for a client.
No.
Ew.
No, because
was this the one that was chromed by the Harley parts?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's not sustainable.
The Harley enthusiast machinist that had a cocaine problem that eventually hastened his exit from our lovely existence.
Oh man.
Crazy sweetheart of a guy, Howard. Anyway, this is what years of experience and feedback from customers and seeing things come back damaged or broken.
Yeah.
And
is this the second recipe?
This is the second recipe. The vodka ran out.
Oh.
I have a small bottle of absolute vodka. I've been using the Belvedere. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
But Belvedere now it's gone.
So your second one had Belvedere in it, and this is Absolute.
Yeah, that's that.
No, that's Belvedere.
Oh, this is Belvedere?
Yeah.
So you're about to have.
He had us two.
But the second one he had was what?
That.
Oh, so this is the same. That's what I wanted to know. He's asking, is this the same as the last one he had?
That was the same as the last one that he had.
Yeah.
But then now it's about what years are gone. So I can make a.
Oh,
Erico, here's what I would say to you 100%. I trust you implicitly. Whatever you do in there, I'm going to be happy with. Oh.
I do.
You do?
Terry says hi.
Hello.
Hey, Terry.
Here, let's switch back to what's going on in the room because people must think this is like the gods must be crazy.
step of the Zoom broker, I can do the Greyhound.
You know what? Don't give us a choice. Just do your magic, because you're magic.
Anything you walk in here with, is
Anything
gonna-
that you do
yeah.
is going to be magical. So
Have we ever had
not
drink
one
that she
ever,
made
not
that's-
one ever, not zero, not never, not a no.
Which one? You wanted to do
None.
absolute with the
Don't encourage her. Just like,
This is what we call dealer's choice, and you're the dealer.
yeah, I'm not gonna be to be the emperor of Venice and trying to tell Amadeus what
This?
to do.
Have a little sip and tell me what you think.
Here's what I think. I'm all done talking about amplifiers. Good night. Oh, that's yummy, yum, 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 yum. There's something. What is it? What is it in there?
Tell me what you think it is, because I got it wrong.
Oh, it's almost like cilantro or something.
Okay, I thought she switched to gin that was
Oh.
piney.
Oh,
kept sniffing
it's the peel. It's the lemon peel.
It's lemon. Yeah,
lemon
I
peel.
thought. Oh, she switched it to gin.
It's
like a
no, she
super
twisted.
botanical gin.
She did the twist.
Yep.
Ah.
That's what it is. Yeah. Amanda.
Come on down, Amanda. So anyway, yeah. I mean, now let's just talk and get this really boring technical crap out of the way.
All right, and then we're gonna do questions.
And then we're going to do questions.
speed rounds.
Speed rounds. Why not solid state power amps for a guitar?
Great
Historically, and this goes way back to the beginning of, the explosion of rock and roll, not the 50s rock and roll, but the explosion of
question. Like late '60s, we're
er-
learning to use the
mid-
power section.
early to mid 60s.
Yeah.
Where all the kids are getting guitars, all the kids.
It's not Buddy Holly. It's Eric Clapton now.
Beatle haircuts and playing.
Oh, okay.
Getting guitars, getting amplifiers, buying amplifiers, reading guitar amplifier literature from Fender, from any whatever other companies, Gibson, Ampeg, Silvertone, Words Airline, Supro, whatever.
Yeah.
The most important thing that we would all sit around and do with our Sears catalogs and our Montgomery Ward catalogs and all of this is go, this one's got 20 watts. This one's got 40 watts. Well, this one's got 50 watts peak music power.
It's all about the horsepower.
But wait a minute,
right?
it says 50 watts peak music power, but on the bottom it says 10 watts RMS. What's that about? Okay, 10 watts RMS is what the real amp is doing. But they all played this one-upmanship game with what we'll do is we'll parse the power output so that we can get to the biggest number. And eventually the government stepped in and started
Oh, really?
regulating what you could say about power because everybody was lying about output power. You could take a 10 watt amp and say it's a 100 watt amp. Yeah, for a microsecond, for a nanosecond, this will put out 100 watts. You won't be able to use it, but at 100 kilohertz for a nanosecond, this 10 watt amp will do 100 watts.
Was this the LBJ Secretary of Tone appointment? A secretary of
Yeah.
tonal oversight?
Remember
late
what
60s?
No, it was just, it was truth in advertising.
They still lie.
They still lie. They lie bigger than ever right now to this minute. And it's not that they lie. I mean, it's the intent, really. It's the intent.
The fudge.
When you look at the specs, they're banking on that you don't know what you're reading. They're depending on the fact that you don't know what you're reading. So when you see, hey, this new product came out, it's a stereo power amp and it's 215 watts a channel. Great. Stereo power amp, 250 watts a channel. That's more than enough power for my gig. Oh, 250 watts channel. 215. Awesome. Now let's look at the specs. Oh, 215 watts at 4 ohms at 0.1% distortion for 20 minutes. It says it on the spec. It says it there. Now, most people aren't going to look at the specs. Most people aren't going to care. They're just thinking, for this amount of money, I can get twice as much power amp. I perceived by what the top line specs say. And by top line specs, I mean the bullet points that you read at the top, because you're not going to read all that snooze inducing, verbiage that has percent signs and decimal numbers and the square root symbol and all this crap. You're just going back to the part that the reason you flunked math in school in the first place,
And you're a guitar player.
don't want to encounter again. I don't want to revisit that part of my childhood. I just want to plug in and play.
Yeah.
All right. Only problem is, gee whiz, a 215 watt Class D power amp at 0.1% distortion. When you plug it into a 16 ohm cabinet and push it to 10% distortion, is now 50 watt amp. 50 watts at clipping. 50 watts at clipping. 50 watts, the maximum usable power you will ever get out of that thing, and you're barely getting it. It's more like 48. And you don't want to clip it, because in a solid state power amp, when you clip it, it sounds bad.
Yeah.
The other thing about Class D is that you don't understand is, sure, it will ultimately, a sine wave will go in and a sine wave will come out. In an analog, a complete true analog power amp design, it's basically a voltage amplifier. A small little sine wave goes in, a big giant sine wave comes out. It's called a voltage amplifier. It's also called a voltage follower. And the reason is because the voltage that goes in and the voltage come out, they track the same way. So whatever's happening on the output is following the behavior that's happening on the input. It's just bigger. This is the sine wave going in. This is the sine wave coming out. But it's an exact analog of the signal that went in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Let's look at a solid state Class AB power amp. Exactly the same thing. Except we don't have an output transformer in a solid state power amp. Why? Because we don't need one. The output transformer is converting the relatively high impedance of the tube, the actual tube amplifier part of the circuit, to the relatively low impedance of the speaker that those tubes need to drive. They need a mechanism to convert that to high power tube impedance to that low speaker impedance. And that's the job of the transformer.
Mm-hmm.
That's its only job.
Yeah.
It's not a tone machine thing. It could become a tone machine thing.
Oh, look at this.
And how it becomes a tone machine thing.
Is this a Greyhound?
Yeah. Is if
Cheers.
After you push it beyond its normal limits, it starts to impose its personality on the sound. Then it becomes a factor in tone. But we're not talking about that right now. We're only talking about amplifying the little sound and getting the big sound. Okay.
This has got that buffalo grass vodka.
Ooh, it just looks awesome.
It so
Looks like I can hardly wait to get my chops around that. Okay, why is this important? Well, a solid state power amp has a very low impedance. And I know this is really sort of arcane stuff. All you really need to know about that is that because of the nature of the design of the solid state power amp, it is inherently going to limit the behavior of the speaker. Because in audio, in strictly audio terms, the speaker is an extremely flawed audio reproduction device.
Mm-hmm.
It's flawed.
Yeah.
Like every
we
component
like
in
that.
an audio system, it's got flaws. And everything around designing an audio reproduction system is aimed at eliminating the weaknesses in every component in the system until you've got where a little tiny signal got to be really big, and in all other respects, they're identical. Great. Great for hi-fi, great for industrial amplification, great for all these reasons. You know, when
Yeah.
we say industrial applications,
Yeah.
you ever seen these commercials where they have the car, the car body is strapped to a shaker table, and they're shaking the daylights out of it to test the design of the unibody construction of the chassis of the car they're going to produce. They check it to see if the design integrity is valid for the design that they came up with. They
Yeah.
put it on a shaker table and try to shake it apart. And if it structurally holds together, they've verified their design process. They've verified that their welding technique, all this. They've verified the structural integrity of the design.
Mhm.
That shaker table is usually driven by an industrial power amp at 1 hertz, 2 hertz, wampa, 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 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. That low frequency that isn't audible. You can feel it in the room. It'll knock you over if it hits you, but you can't hear it. You can see it in action. That's what one thing that a solid state amp is really good for. Just delivering horsepower to a fucking shaker table
So
that's got
denigrating.
a 1,500-pound unibody chassis
What
on
do you
this
really
table.
think about solid state power amps?
I'm
Steve?
telling you, they're fucking awesome, and they have their use, and they're designed by really intense people that go through every single aspect of the design, and throughout the design from beginning to end, do everything to ameliorate, you know, the drawbacks of a particular topology. Now, a power amp is going to have several topologies within one overarching topology, and each little element that the signal passes through is going to have some benefits and some drawbacks. And so each subsequent stage is going to have some way to fix the drawback of the previous stage so that the next stage won't re-amplify that drawback, but it'll have another drawback of its own. And then the next stage after that will have some mechanism to ameliorate the drawback of the previous stage, and so on and so on and so on, until they've perfected everything. Well, they may have perfected getting a frequency response at a particular distortion characteristic, but again, is it good for audio? Debatable. People debate it all the time. They've been debating it since amplifiers have been introduced. It's been debated since solid state amplifiers sort of took over the amplifier market. And it's been debated again when there was a resurgence in power tube technology. And it's still going on to this day now that there's the advent of Class D technology. It goes on all the time. But there's one constant in there, and that tube amplifiers have these 2 or 3 specific behaviors and personality aspects of them that make them ideal for use as guitar instrument amplifiers. Solid state amplifiers are problem-solving topologies. They want to eliminate the distortion. They want to eliminate any erratic behaviors, not only in the circuitry, but everything that's connected to them, including the speaker. They won't want the speaker to do anything that it's not supposed to be doing. Introducing resonance, introducing variations in frequency, all of these things, this solid state, the most advanced solid state technologies are designed to stop the speaker from misbehaving on paper. And us guitar players go, but I like that. I like that. Don't take that away. I like that thing. I like that. I want. I like that. Why isn't it there anymore? Well, it only cost me $600, so I guess if I had to pay $1,200, I wouldn't buy that. If it was $1,200, I'd buy the tube amp for $1,200 because I like that. But if I have to pay twice as much to get that, well, I really like that, but I only have $600. Okay, it'll get me through the gig. All right. I can buy my wife an extra couple of glasses of champagne if she even bothers to come and see me at a gig, which she probably is sick of seeing me, play Rocky Mountain Way for the 50th time. But if she showed up, I would definitely buy her the finest glass of champagne in the bar because I have an excess.
You're not playing Rocky Mountain Way at a place that serves wines.
Well, it depends on what you call wine, but that's another subject. So anyway, yeah. So now Class D. Let's just talk about Class D really quickly. Imagine a sine wave. And if we all know what a sine wave looks like, imagine a camel, the hump on the camel's back. Now take a camel and then put another camel right after it, but upside down. You have one camel, the hump is going up, the other camel, the hump is going down. That's a sine wave. And that's sine wave represents a frequency. And a guitar chord is composed of multiple frequencies overlapped on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what audio is.
Yeah.
So a tube amplifier takes a little sine wave or a combination of a bunch of overlapping sine waves and makes that a bigger, louder result of all those combined sine waves, along with some of the oddball little behavior in tube amplifiers that we love, along with some of the oddball behavior in a guitar speaker in a cabinet, which we love. And then when you hit that speaker with that voltage, some of this voltage from the speaker leaks back into the amplifier because it's a tube amplifier, and a solid state amplifier will prevent that from happening. So you can't have that. Sorry, in a solid state amp, you can't have that part. You can't have that because tube amplifier does that, but the solid state amplifier will not allow that. Sorry. That's what you lost for the extra $300 you didn't want to pay, or $600 you didn't want to pay. Now, with Class D, anybody using and selling a Class D power amp will tell you it's analog. It is. An analog signal went in, an analog signal comes out. There's no D to A converter going in. There's no A to D converter coming back out. It doesn't convert the signal into digital information and then back into analog information. It doesn't do that. What it does do is it takes a sine wave and changes it into a triangle wave and then into a square wave. And they do that because transistors and tubes use energy when they're making the transition from 0 to full power. This sine wave that we're talking about, you notice it has an angle going up and an angle going down. When the signal is at its full output, at its maximum clean power output, it's using a certain amount of energy. In a Class D amplifier, it's using about the same amount of energy. But when there's no signal happening, Class D amplifier immediately switches to using 0 energy, where a power tube transitions to using 50% as much energy. Full power, no power, tube power amp. Class D, full power, no power. That 50% difference is where all the efficiency in the power amplifier comes from. The transistor doesn't transition from full power output to 0 power output. It instantly switches from on to off because the signal was converted to a square wave. Well, a square wave just sounds like a fuzz face. Why do I want that?
That's not guitaristically.
Here's the trick. The trick is that that square wave switches from positive to negative every millionth of a cycle, or every 300,000th of a cycle, whatever frequency the Class D power amp is operating at. Let's just call it a megahertz. If it's a megahertz, the square wave polarity is switching at 1 millionth of a cycle every millionth of a second. And the transistor is either 100% on or 100% off. No transition period. That zero transition period means it's not using energy transitioning from on to off. It's only using energy when it's on full and no energy when it's off. So that quickly switching square wave is then amplified into the larger power, and then all of the square wave component is filtered out at the end so that it resembles, not equals, resembles a sine wave again.
Yeah. It's a
So,
facsimile of
It's a facsimile of the sine wave. It's not the sine wave.
Right.
If you look at it very closely, you'll see that that sine wave is chopped into 1,000,000 bits or 300,000 bits. And so there's this sort of choppiness to it. That choppiness is not musical sounding, number one. It cannot be completely eliminated without elaborate filtering. And if you do use really elaborate filtering, the filtering will cause, this is really deep now, phase shift, which will happen at frequencies that you don't hear but give you a fucking headache.
That's wild.
And anybody that's used a low-cost class D power amp for a whole gig and then goes home with a giant migraine, that's why. Your brain doesn't like that. Your brain does not like that. Your brain, you get a headache because your brain worked really hard the whole night of that gig trying to filter out that nasty Class D chopping behavior. And then the other thing about solid state power amps, whether they're Class D or Class AB, is they require a really stiff, pure, clean power supply in order to operate properly. There's no slop, there's no sag, there's no nothing. They're very tightly regulated, they're highly filtered, they don't move. And anybody that has laid into any kind of a medium-sized amplifier or even a loud amplifier at very loud volume, and you pound on a chord, you hear that sag and then that breathing open. No solid-state power amp does that because that's a power supply function. And in tube amplifiers, we leave that behavior in there because we like it. Solid-state power amplifiers don't have that behavior because if you let it be in there, you would really hear it and it would not be pretty. So you can't underdamp a solid-state power amp power supply and expect the same result as a tube amp because it doesn't work the same way. Transistors behave differently. So the power supply is going to react differently. You have to have a very well-regulated, tightly filtered power supply in a solid-state power amp. Again, that's great for reproducing power on an industrial scale, but it is not musical sounding for a guitar player. It just is. That's just the facts. So when you combine the fact that a solid-state power amp doesn't breathe, has a finite clipping point that you do not want to violate, and you can violate it on a tube power amp because once it goes, the tube power amp goes into distortion, it's pleasant sounding distortion. We love the sound of it because it's juicy, it's ringing, our brains perceive it as part of the musical content of actually what you're playing. If you're playing a power chord and you push your power amp into distortion, the kind of distortion that tube amplifiers produce, your brain perceives as musical. Doesn't give you a headache. It sounds like part of the music. A solid state power amp does not do that. It has a limit. You got to stay below the limit. And that's why a solid state power amp has to be 2 to 4 times more powerful than the equivalent tube power amp so that you don't hit clipping. So when the manufacturer says, you, person that's using a 50-watt tube power amp, we're going to sell you a 200-watt power amp. So you're going to have plenty of headroom for that. But only if you run it at 4 ohms. And who among us uses a 4 ohm cab most of the time for playing guitar through? It's usually 8. And if you're in 412 cabs like I am, like Joe is, more often 212s or 412s, it's going to be a 8 ohm minimum or often a 16 ohm cab. And now your 200-watt power amp that had all this headroom because it's solid state, all that extra headroom is gone because of the impedance of the speakers. are higher, and there's no transformer between the amp and the speaker cabinet to compensate for those. So you're stuck with the solid state power amp only giving you the optimum power under the optimum conditions, and no guitar player plays under those optimum conditions for a solid state power amplifier to work for them. So it's a compromise. It's a big compromise. If you're using modelers, you're already not really playing the tube amplifier as a part of the instrument anymore. That's okay. If you're not playing loud, you're not pushing the output of the amplifier to its limits, so it's going to stay clean. It's okay. But if you're playing a gig or pushing a power amp to get a juicy sound out of it, the solid state power amp is never going to do that. It's always going to be the device that you need to put out of the way so that it doesn't cause you any anguish, pain, disappointment, or other unsatisfactory side effects. So this technology is wonderful, useful, and there are a gazillion applications for it. And my personal philosophy and attitude is for everything except a guitar amplifier.
Hey, well done.
Now,
Yeah, we're already
we have
over,
15 minutes for questions.
You remember when we were trying to get kind of down to this 2-hour level,
We get closer.
and we've been creeping up. I don't care. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that we did this whole thing where, did we actually run a timer when you answered questions? We're like, let's see if you can do it.
I think you did. Yeah, I think you did.
And do you want to? We don't have to run a timer. You want to do it? Trying to do a speed run on some
Sure.
of these things?
Sure.
All right. All right. We're gonna give it a shot here, guys. Speed running the questions. Okay. First one. Read that half of the 2150 is the Ultra Lead's power amp, and half of the 292 is the SIG X's power amp. The 292 is the successor to the 2150. How are the power amps of the Ultra Lead and the SIG X different?
Okay. That's largely from.
And Ali says they got all that from the internet comment on forums, so who knows how accurate it is.
Yeah,
so,
it's not very accurate.
okay.
People sort of made these suppositions based on half of the 2150 is two 6550s, and the first Ultra Leads had two 6550s, then went to four. And the SIG X power amp could run two 6550s instead of four EL34s. So it's a different topology, but the same general design concept. The 292 is the direct successor to the 2150. That's true. It's the 2150 with in a smaller box with smaller transformers. It puts out exactly the same amount of power as the 2150, but the 2150 has the bigger transformers in it, and they do have a little bit more of a robust low end just because there's more physical iron in the transformers in the 2150. That's the big difference.
Lou says they're hearing the song from Jeopardy now, and I totally get that.
All right, great.
Yeah, okay, nice. Okay. Buddy Steven asks, how different are the two power station amps from the other power amps?
Simply power output. Same frequency response, same circuit topology, although even the PS2 uses a 12AX7 phase inverter, and the PS100 uses a 12DW7. The only reason for that is the DW7 is half a 12AX7 and half a 12AU7. The AU7 has a lower impedance than the AX, and so that half of the tube is used to drive the 6550s, which need more drive power than 6L6s do in order to achieve the full 100 watts of output. So the only difference between those two amplifiers is that the phase inverter, which is effectively the same design, except the part driving the power tubes has a lower impedance, is that and only that. in order to make them tonally and sonically sound the same before you get to the point of clipping is accomplished by trimming the negative feedback circuit inside to and the input gain to compensate for the 12 DW7 second half having a little bit less gain than a 12AX7. So that's compensated for in the input stage. So it's got a little bit more gain up front so that by the time the signal hits the power tubes, it's the same gain hitting the power tubes that is hitting the power tubes in the PS2. However, the PS100 has to produce more power.
Yeah.
So it needs more drive voltage to get up to that point. But as long as the two are not in anywhere near clipping and they're at exactly the same volume, I would challenge anybody to tell me which one that they're playing through in a blind test. You wouldn't be able to hear it.
Yeah. You're on fire already.
Yeah.
Whipping through these. How different is the Synergy power amp versus the LX2?
In the Synergy power amp, the Synergy guys wanted the depth. Number one, the depth and presence controls to be on the front panel and user accessible. The LX2 had already been in existence before the SYN 5050 came into existence. So they basically came around and said, can you make us our own special version of that? And I said, sure. Just tell me what it is you want it to do differently and we'll do that. The SYN 5050 has depth and presence controls on the front and a separate volume control for each channel. The presence controls are dual stacked, and that means the left channel presence and the right channel presence change at the same time. Same with the depth. The other thing is the depth and presence controls have a lot more gain than they do in the LX2. What that does is it makes them work more. What Synergy wanted was they wanted the depth and presence controls to appear to do more.
To seem rather than to be.
Well, I mean, it does. They do have
Badari.
more control range than the user adjustable, although hidden presence and depth controls in the LX2. They actually do more. One of our other viewers mentioned something about compromises. And I always say, we've said it ever since the show began. That for every solution, there's a compromise. And for every problem, there's a solution. And for every solution, there's a compromise. That's the whole thing.
Your strengths are your weaknesses. Your
Right.
weaknesses are your strengths.
So in order to get the presence and depth controls to have more gain, they operate in the negative feedback loop of the power amplifier. So you have to run more negative feedback into them to get the controls to do more. In doing so, the presence goes up and down more, the depth goes up and down more, but because there's more negative feedback, the mid-range stays fixed at a value that does not move as much. And so it's stiffer in the mid-range than the LX2. The LX2 has less overall negative feedback, which opens up the power amp. Now, when those guys said that that's what they wanted, I understood the mission was we're using lots of different modules from, and they weren't all developed yet. This is way before the modules really got into full swing. There were only a few modules available when the SYN 5050 came out. But they anticipated that there's going to be a lot more modules, and so the power amp needed to be able to compensate more for the different modules that would possibly be used in the Synergy system. Ergo, the presence and depth should be able to do more so we can dial them in more. Great idea, except that you can't change the presence and depth automatically when you switch to different modules. So kind of is a self-defeating ask, and we discussed that, but at the end of the day, they had a meeting and they decided, overall, we think that it's better that the controls do more. I said, okay. So
Oh, so they do more.
They do more.
Oh, I thought you were saying they appeared to do more.
They do more at the top and the bottom,
Got
but
it.
as a result, there's more restraint of the
In the
mid-range
mid-range,
qualities.
yeah.
So the mid-range doesn't sound quite as transparent in the Syn 5050 because of that. Of course, if you turn the presence and depths up a little bit, you can pretty much compensate for that, and it's also going to be more sensitive to whatever speakers you have plugged into it. The LX2 being lower feedback, and there was a trend in the 90s that evolves to this day, where a lot of vintage amps either have very little or no negative feedback in them, and we love the sound of Class A amps with no negative feedback because they sound wild and unrestrained, and they're wonderful, and that's great. So the more negative feedback you apply,
You're clamping it down.
the more you clamp it down, the more you start moving into the thing that solid state amp does to sort of correct for, the little gremlins that we don't want. That's a method that they use to do that. And I am a proponent of a moderate use of negative feedback in order to get the most performance, the minimum distortion and noise, but the most natural harmonic response out of the amplifier.
Yeah.
And that threshold is different for different people. So Synergy's approach was correct for their application. Ours is correct for our application.
I remember, I'm one of those guys who got the Aspen Pittman books. And sorry. The who's the Kendrick guy?
Oh, Eddie Kendricks?
No.
Oh no, that's the
Kendrick
guy.
Amplifiers in Austin.
Yeah.
Who did the tube amp
I'm being
books?
facetious. Yeah.
And
Gerald Weber.
Yeah, Gerald Weber. And I was
You didn't
one of those
pick up
guys.
on my Eddie Hendricks shout out. Dun, 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 dun.
Sip.
I don't
know what you're talking about.
Temptations.
But what song? Papa Was a Rolling Stone?
Well, he was a Temptation.
Yeah.
So okay. I just snagged on Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
I love that.
Because it was the Temptations. Not because it was Eddie Hendricks, the same song. He sang he did the high part in Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
Oh, okay. Oh man, I'm gonna listen to that on the way home.
Yeah, listen to that on the way home.
Oh, seriously. So I got probably the first Gerald. Well, I think there were 3 of them.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing where everybody was doing books. Gerald had a book.
Yeah.
Aspen Pittman had a book.
But dude, I had my Blackface Fenders and I had my Gerald Weber books, and he would just say, "Here's how to mod your Blackface Fender," and I didn't know shit about shit, but he would say, "Go in here,
you
disconnect the negative feedback,
yeah, right,
and your amp will open up and be wild." And it's like, yeah, it sure as hell did. It's like kind of unused.
Well, yeah, okay.
But this was great. This is why I can actually converse with you.
Okay, you have an ether.
I have.
Do you use the David Torn setting?
Did
you bullshit last week?
I tried.
Did you try to bullshit last week?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's how I learned about those things. Was actually going in.
Do you use the David Torn ether?
The in between
setting. You don't even remember. That means
no. I totally remember.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Do you use it?
Yeah.
Not all the time, though.
No.
That's right.
No.
Torn uses it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't use it. I like the bold setting. I know what the Torn setting is, which is effectively no negative feedback.
Yeah.
Why do we like that? Because the amp goes wild. Now I have a perfect example.
And if you know David's playing, you're like, that
is like
fucking suits him
anything
to the
that will
moon.
propel me off into the next universe is a good thing. So one of our friends was at the factory, and he walked in one day while I was testing ethers, and just for because the testing process was also checking the behavior of the light and bold switch on the power amp module. So I set it to the middle position, which there is no middle position. It's like the middle position on a Strat that only has a 3-position switch.
Right.
You have to finagle it into this position.
Remember the old thing, like stick the match?
Yeah, right.
in
Exactly.
there?
Yeah. So I had it set that way, and this guy comes running back into the R&D department and goes, "What is that? That's so amazing!" I said, "It's the ether. I've heard the ether 100 times. I never heard it sound like that." He flipped, and I went, whoop, and I set it to the bulb position, and he goes,
"What happened?"
"Oh, that's the ether." And I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "You ought to make that a 3-position switch." Yeah, maybe so, but we haven't done it because it's much more fun that you have to go hunt for.
And there's also like, it's that sort of thing where like, do we give children?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we want people to plug this amp in.
Heat, broken tooth, heat.
You're like, what's wrong with my amp? Okay, you're in the no negative feedback land, right?
And so I think that it's perfectly fine that you can get it without a lot of effort. You can get it in the bone. There's absolutely no motivation that I can see legitimately to make it a 3-position. In fact, I am going to posit that Fender, by making or whoever did this, initially made a 5-position Strat switch, making it easy to do that, took all the chutzpah and motivation out of finding that little spot by making it just so easily accessible. Now you don't have to work for it. You just put it in the middle position.
That's
the whole thing about just getting it balanced just right is part of the, I can do this on the fly. I don't need that little notch in there.
Oh, that's funny.
That's just me being the contrarian.
You know,
blah,
Torn,
blah,
I'll be like proud of something that I made, right? And Torn will listen to it. And he's like, "That is so great. Now you need to fuck it up."
Yeah.
He said that to me. Like, can I take that track that he told me once? He was like, "Can I take that track that you made? I just want to play a heinous solo all over, and just fuck it all up." Yeah. And when I have conversations with him, he's talking about, like, the musical conversations that I have with him are about, here's what you need to do to fuck your music up. Like, that's what becomes interesting to him.
And that's why guitar music is the most amazing music on the planet.
Well, he makes me feel like I'm in a straitjacket. You know what I mean?
Really? He
Yeah.
makes me feel brand new every time.
No, like my music is in a straitjacket.
Yeah, well,
which is a cool
He's
thing.
just egging you along.
Oh, he totally is.
Yeah.
He totally is.
All
Okay,
right.
you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, you're not gonna like this one.
I'm gonna like it whether I like it or not.
Okay. Any news on a release date for the new Ultra Lead?
Okay, next.
Wow, that's too fast. You ran away from that one. Okay.
Just hang in there, John. Hang in there.
Yeah. Okay. That's a hint, by the way. Okay. In California, you have to prove some level of sustainable practices. While marketing is acknowledged, I get way too much packaging, stickers, and other swag. What is your perspective on that sort of thing?
Oh boy, Richard, do I totally agree with you. We do not ship products with the manual. For that very reason. We put a little swag in there, not loads of shit, but we put a sticker or two in the product because consumers ask for it. Man, I opened up the box and there was no stuff, So people do want stuff. What they don't want is homework. They really don't want homework. I don't want homework either. I'm just
Wait, did you just say that?
I'm just like you guys. I bitch and moan. I look for the shortcut. I go on the internet and just try to get the AI quick answer before I actually go.
I can't believe you're saying
No, it's true. Nobody likes reading the manual unless you have to. The difference is once I go, all right, I have to read the manual, I will use every tool
before you ask a real human being to apply themselves to your problem.
because I know they won't. Because I'm going to go to any other company's tech support person and I'm going to get I know the person who's responding to my question. They've got 50 emails open. They're multitasking like a motherfucker. They barely know the information themselves. They're Googling the answer to give you the AI answer that you already got. It's maddening. So if I can't figure it out myself, and most of the times I can, I will go to tech support last. I will go on the internet and find if anybody else has a similar problem to mine. And then I will compare the results I get with mine. And if they don't line up, then I will go to the company's tech support and ask them. Now, I went to NAM one time over the issue that we had on this show with, and by the way, it hasn't happened the entire show. 2.5 hours. It hasn't happened. It didn't stop. It didn't stop.
Look at what you're getting. You get what I just had.
My last is broken.
Oh, this is bison grass greyhound, bro.
Oh, Nico-chan, you are the most wonderful thing on the entire planet Earth, and probably the rest of the universe too.
By the way, people are asking for your espresso martini recipe in the chat.
Okay, so we had a problem on the show that when I switched computers, I got a newer computer. All of a sudden, we're doing the show, and it just says going.
Is this with the total mix?
In the middle of the show. Using
Some of y'all remember that.
Using the RME interface, which I still use. It's a great interface. It's a great interface. It's probably 100 times better than I even really need an interface to be. But hey, it was COVID. You know, we were in just spend it, mode, just like everybody else was, because I did not want to, and I didn't want to cheap out and get the thing that wasn't going to work. I actually did buy an interface before that didn't cut it. It came along with a bunch of compromises, and I shit canned it, not because it was a bad product, but because it wasn't compatible as I thought it should be with a Windows operating system. And everything that we do is Windows because we're a manufacturer. Everything we do in manufacturing is depending on Windows architecture, not Mac.
I'm in the creative field.
You're in the creative
field.
field.
I have all the Mac shit.
I don't need the Mac shit. We don't use the Mac shit, but our graphic artist guy does.
Well, it's really horses for courses.
And Joe does.
Yeah.
But
RME in the land of IBM computers, I used to use. That's with the converters that I use.
So when we were having a problem with the other interface that
on
we were
those
using,
machines.
somebody said, well, you're using Windows. You should be using an RME.
Yeah,
We got an RME. Boom, problem solved. Everything's working fine.
Sounds great.
Except with one particular computer, after I upgraded, that computer was starting to have this buffer overrun problem with USB. Could not fix it. Searched the internet. 27 people all had the same problem. I communicated with RME. They said, update your blah, blah, blah. Don't use the computer that you're using, blah, blah, blah. I'm like going, wait a minute.
You had a great dude at RME for a while.
He's still there.
Did you send him like a bottle?
I did. I said,
nice?
He was very helpful. He helped us set up the show, set up the rig. We're still using the setup that he gave us for the show.
Yeah.
Fantastic customer service. Fantastic guy. Met him at NAM. He immediately apologized. As soon as I introduced myself, first time we met face to face, he apologized for not being able to address the problem. He says there are just some computer systems out there that have these inherent compatibility issues, and Dell is one of them. But Dell is reasonably priced for us. They work better than Hewlett-Packard and all the other PC-based systems that we use. They're affordable. They work great. They just don't work well with this one particular aspect of the interface, which is the USB interface. Miraculously, the new computer I bought works, but it only works because I figured a workaround. All the USB connections on the back of the computer are doing other things. They're not the things that are interfacing with the RME interface. The RME interface is using the front panel USB-C connector. And for some reason, when I connect it that way, it works great. But if I use the regular USB 3, the standard USB connector coming from the RME, which uses that stupid square printer USB connector on the back for the audio output.
Yeah.
I have to buy the later version of the RME to get that, and it's not worth it for me to do that. I used the USB cable that came with it and used an adapter to convert it to C and plug that into the front of the Dell, the new Dell, which has the C connector, and it problem solved. I'm about ready to go into that chat group where everybody was going, and say, I found the problem. I bought a new Dell. It works fucking great. Do this. We have now been doing the show for 2 hours and 40 minutes and it hasn't conked out. So that problem solved.
That's a win. Okay, next question.
That's a win. So going back to Richard's question, because this all evolved from the customer support perspective, which is we don't put the manuals in the product because our manuals are not like if you look at any other manufacturers, typical manufacturers, 2-page manuals where they just tell you enough information to make the product work without being dangerous. We tell you everything you need to know about it, which, of course, we get a lot of customer support blowback from. But it says this, and I don't understand. So we spend a lot of time explaining to customers what we mean about what we said in the manual. Fine. But in the box, we just put a little card that has a QR code in it, and you go to the manual online, and then you get confused and flustered and then contact us. Fine. That's why we set up Fryette.forum.com. FRYETTE.forum.com. That's our own website, our own tech support and customer support and end user feedback forum. It's a godsend. It helps the customers. It helps us. We get information from you guys about what works for you and what doesn't. And we get to give you real-time information about why things seem like they should work, but they don't, and what the ramifications are. It's a great way for us to communicate to you. No, we didn't drop the ball. We just made something really complex, and we considered all the hundreds of different ways you can possibly use our product because we put too much stuff in that does all these wonderful, interesting, different, confusing, confounding things. And we understand that we need to help you navigate that. But by using our forum, we get to do that without trolls coming in and go, well, you shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting in my vibrator chair in my living room with a big screen TV telling you that you like, heat, broken tubes, heat. And that's how we eliminate all that. So, yes, Richard, minimize the packaging waste, maximize the access to product information. It's a difficult balance to strike, and nobody gets it right. We just have to always try to be aware of that and do the best we can to try to find the right balance. And it's going to be an evolving balance. But thanks for your comment. It was really a well-considered and important topic. Cheers.
Okay. This is kind of a two-parter. What do you recommend for power tubes currently? My D120 is currently out of commission due to a JJ KT88 that lost vacuum, and it's the third JJ tube I've had go bad under a year. And then a follow-up is it worth spending the extra for NOS tubes?
Okay. Thank you for that
Speed run
question. This is not a speed run question answered, but I'm going to do my best.
I know you will.
Since 2019, from 2019 to the end of 2019 to onset of 2020 to present, there was a crash in tube availability across the industry, and we're still recovering from it. One of the things that was the result of that was that some tubes became completely unavailable. Shuguang, anything by New Sensor, meaning Mullard, Svetlana, Tungsol, and Sovtek, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what ended up happening is JJ went from 8 to 12 weeks lead time to 52 weeks lead time to 104 weeks lead time, 2 years lead time, because they were the last company standing at the point at one particular period of time. We had not used JJ tubes consistently up until 2020. We avoided them. Two things changed. Their quality control got better, and they ramped up their production to try to meet demand, although they got horribly overwhelmed. So there are some inherent little issues with JJs that still exist, but not any worse than anything out of Russia or anything out of China. It's just the only difference now is that JJs are more available because the other factories, Shuguang, Peasvane, and everything under the New Sensor brand, as I mentioned before, are now more available.
Yeah.
So there are more choices again.
Yeah.
But all of those choices, none of them are great. They're ramping back up production, which is difficult, especially with what it takes to actually build a vacuum tube. There's a lot of manual labor involved in that. There's a lot of training involved in that. So in China, for example, when a factory shuts down and then 2.5, 3 years later, they get back up and running, a lot of people don't work there anymore and have to be retrained. So there's that. And with regard to JJ, materials are an issue for them. They can manage the manufacturing, but they have materials issues because of where they are in Europe, and the competitive thing. Their prices shot up. Their quality kind of suffered a little bit, whereas all the Russian tubes, their prices shot up. Their reliability went totally in the trash. And as you know, anything from Russia, when is it all going to just stop? A lot of uncertainty there. And then there's Peasvane, which is kind of sort of stepped into the breach to try to take advantage of this hole in the marketplace. They've done a pretty respectable job of filling that breach, but they still need to develop their QC processes and improve their overall quality. So it's all still in a state of flux. So we went from being very specific about using certain kinds of tubes and nothing else to we'll use anything that walks. But what that required is that we put it through our own really regimented and restrictive QC process, which takes us more time and energy and money. But we make tube amplifiers, so we don't really have a choice. So we put everything through the grinder, and we return a lot of stuff. And the suppliers understand that about us because they know that if they can tell other manufacturers that Fryette uses their tubes, they go, oh, well, Fryette uses it. I guess that's okay because those guys are animals about quality. And that sort of works in their favor and it works in our favor. Still, it's a challenge. And I would suggest that if you're having problems with KT88s, first of all, stop using KT88s because there aren't any really good ones right now. The 6550s that are coming out of JJ and out of Russia, the Sovtek 6550s are actually really good. So we used to use them consistently many years ago, and they were very consistent. Well, somehow the Sovtek 6550s have gotten back up to being relatively reliable and bulletproof, and they sound good. And the JJ 6550s, which I never cared for that much before, are sounding much better. As far as reliability between the two, the Sovtek still has an edge. But the KT88s from Sovtek and Mullard and EH and JJ are just not up to the same level as the 6550s. So if you had 3 sets of JJ KT88s and had problems, start with JJ 6550s, and you'll probably be surprised how good they actually work.
That's actually really good information.
Yeah, that
Okay.
couldn't have been a.
And then the second part of the question was, I already scrolled past it, was, are NOS tubes worth the investment?
Okay, 30 years ago when I was getting asked this question, that might have been a different thing because new old stock tubes were only 10 to 20 years old at that time. Now new old stock tubes are 30 to 40 years old. And new old stock tubes that sit on a shelf, or a NOS, which is almost NOS, which is like being almost pregnant. Tubes do age just sitting on a shelf. It takes a long time for that to happen, but consequently, 20 to 40 years is a long ass time, right?
A long ass time.
Long ass
A
time.
long ass time.
I was watching. Oh man, I missed this guy.
Do you have any of that yet?
I had a taste.
Okay.
Who's the young, really wide comedian, Ralphie May.
Oh, I don't know, Ralphie.
Oh, watch Ralphie May. He'll kill you. He's great. He was great. Rest in peace. He did this great spiel about his grandmother who had Alzheimer's, but she still made good ass fudge. Man, she made some good ass fudge. Grandma, you smell like pee, but man, nah. It's okay because you make good ass fudge. That was nasty, but
All right,
go check out
NOS
Ralphie.
tubes.
Yeah. So new old stock tubes have aged more in the time that I've started getting this question, and they are fine. I wouldn't put them in an amp that I was going to go tour with or play regular gigs with, just because there are so many good tubes out there that will be way less expensive and last just fine. And if you have to replace them once in a while, you can replace them once for every 4 times that you replace. Well, you'll replace them 4 times for every time that you buy a new old stock and still save money. How about that? That's pretty much what I want to say about that.
All right. From the same individual, I'm also having an issue with my SIG-X. All channels function, but the lead channel is substantially quieter than the clean and rhythm channels. Runs at almost half the volume it should. I've replaced preamp tubes with good tubes twice with no difference. Where should I be looking for a cause?
Okay. Read the response that we sent you on the forum, and we'll continue that conversation because we needed some feedback from you and we requested it, and it's on the forum. So please respond to those questions, and that's the thing that we're going to have to work through because we need more feedback from you. And the lightning round is unfortunately not the place to do that. We want to help you. We will help you. Just keep going through the forum process and we'll get there.
Great. Can we have the settings on the Deliverance to get the high watt amp sound? This is referencing the day with when Lyle was in. Do you remember what you were doing on the Deliverance, or is it just blind turning knobs until it kind of matches?
Pretty much blind turning knobs. You know what I think I would do overall is, because they are inherently different amplifiers. So to get the high watt sound, let's just quickly say, and Stephen, I just want to say a personal thank you. This guy goes on the forum and he's taking it upon himself to exchange and share some of the knowledge that he's picked up from us over the years on the forum.
I know he's a stalwart.
That's why we put the forum together, to have guys like you participate and help, and we really do appreciate it. So thanks a lot. Now about the Deliverance, I'm going to slide back and say that the Deliverance is a different amplifier than the high watt, but what is the essence of the high watt, and what is it about it, and what is it about the deliverance that are similar? And that is that when you set the front end for the lower gain mode and just turn the master volume up and hit that power chord that almost makes you wince when you play it, that's, to me, that's the essence, getting the power amp to work harder. And it almost doesn't matter where you set the tone controls, because it will essentially do that. The 2 Plus, yeah, it will do it a little more easily, because you can, it completely turns off the gain, the additional gain stage, and so you're only running through the first gain stage without gain 2 being operable. So you would basically turn gain 2 all the way down, turn you would probably have the right switch. If you don't have the 2 Plus or the 2, you would put the, when you go to the more mode. Yeah, I mean, it's a little difficult. You have to be, you could either be in the less mode or the more mode, but you would have to turn the gain 2 all the way down, and in the more mode you would still have the gain stage on. And that's really the reason that we did the 2 Plus, is so that you could get closer to that.
Because what you had the 2 Plus the other day. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were using a 2 Plus. So less mode, gain 2 all the way down, gain 1 between 10 and 12 o'clock max, probably more like 9 to 10 o'clock, master volume up, treble middle bass, all between 12 and 1 o'clock, the presence way up, and the depth about 11 o'clock. That would be one sort of expression of that. You really want to keep the gain down, the power amp way up, and enough clarity out of the power amp stage by turning the presence up for it to be, honestly, a little threatening and painful. And then you use the power station to just take the real sting off, and then you have this thing where you back off the guitar 1 or 2 notches and ring an E chord, and it'll be there. It's partly about pick attack too, so keep that in mind.
All right.
Don't use vintage 30s. Sorry, I had to throw that in. Nothing against vintage 30s.
Well, with that rig,
they don't do that.
Have you ever tried putting a PPIMV on a high watt, a DR, like a 100 watt or a 50 watt circuit?
What a great question. I did that to Neil Schoen's amp in 1980.
Ooh. Oh, yeah. I remember you told me about that.
Yeah, actually, I didn't do it to his amp. Somebody else did it to his amp, and he hated it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a 504, it was a 103, but same deal. Because it sounded like somebody threw a blanket over the amp. So I did a little modification of that, which I never told anybody about, but later on, other people sort of discovered the same thing and have marketed it under various names, like other people who claimed, I discovered this wonderful thing, and they put their name on it. I never did that. If I figured out a way to do something, I just did it. I gave it back to the customer, and I didn't go, hey, I'm a brilliant guy. I mean, so whoever is on the forums promoting the wonderful PPIMV that I came up with was probably done 20 years ago before it ever occurred to you, which was a partial high frequency bypass of the pot doing that job to compensate for the headroom that you lose using that. And what do I think of it? I think the same thing of the PPIMV on any amplifier. I personally prefer attenuating the amp, but that's me. I don't like squish. I don't like excessive compression. I like clarity. I like ka-chang. One of my favorite guitar sounds is Angus Young when he's playing clean. When he lightly strums and you hear that
Mhm.
Actually, somebody posted on the forum the other day that they thought that there was something wrong with the GPDI gain stage or the clean mode that they wanted modified the same way as the deliverance module. There was a little glitch in the deliverance module that we came up with an update to fix that. That wasn't occurring in the GPDI. The GPDI has more headroom because it has more plate voltage. So when you play that guitar volume down, light strum, legato strum, you hear that thing. And if you listen closely to Angus when he's playing stuff like that, you hear that just that onset of clipping. It's a little bit ratty.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. And what it says psychoacoustically to your poor little brain is that this guy's going to unleash the hurt any second now. But he's just not there yet.
Yeah.
And you know it's coming, but it isn't there yet. It's just, and you can hear the little elements of the one certain stage in the amplifier starting to go into the onset of distortion. Not enough to be smooth or musical, just enough to sound like breaking glass, but oh, is it glorious sounding. And I love that. And all you have to do to get from that to terrifying is just turn your guitar volume up 2 more notches, and then you're in terrifying mode. So I love that sound. And we've had a couple of people go, yeah, I'm not really so into that. It's not my bag. Well, but that's there. So there are ways around it. Don't use that mode, or just understand that that's just kind of part of the DNA of that circuit. And it wasn't meant to be eliminated. There are other modules, there are other products out there that will do something in a similar vein, but they'll do whatever the designer whatever they do to mask that behavior out. Fine for the people that don't like that. Me, I like that. I like that thing. It's kind of like when somebody throws a rock across the street, and just as the rock hits the windshield, you go, oh, something exciting is going to happen next. That's kind of my feeling when I hear that sound. Is like, yeah, stand back, bitches.
All right.
Well,
off topic, perhaps.
Ooh, cool.
But are there plans for a switching system power amp that would accommodate multi preamps?
Oh my God. That's off topic and on topic, but I can't answer it right now. But generally, there are all kinds of things. One of the things I'm so excited about right now, I think we're all really excited about, is all the stuff that we've been talking about that we plan on unleashing over the next 12 to 18 months are going to overwhelm your senses. So just be prepared. But
okay.
But you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, of course I know.
Yeah. So
all right.
Yeah, we're gonna be having some fun, and we're gonna be talking about it on the show as we progress forward. So stay tuned.
All right. Yannick asks, if I'm only using a reactive load, does a 2-power, I'm assuming 2-power amp, still preferable, or is a power amp sim enough for most cases?
A tube power amp is essential, and here's why. The solid state power amp, just like when it's driving a speaker, is going to behave the same way driving a reactive load. A reactive load is an electromechanical construct that imitates the behavior of a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So a solid state power amplifier is trying to eliminate anomalies that occur in speaker behavior. It's going to do the same thing with a reactive load, because the reactive load is trying to emulate, and successfully, most of the better reactive loads do this successfully, emulate the behaviors of a speaker that a solid state power amp attempts to suppress. So yeah, you don't want to do that. And the other problem with solid state power amps is a lot of them, okay, it's going to get technical, but I'm not going to go long. Most solid state power amps that are in the affordable cost range are of a type called BTL, in which it's actually 2 power amplifiers operating 180 degrees out of phase with each other, driving one speaker load. And what that means is that the negative side of the speaker load is negative, not ground. The positive side is the positive side of the signals. In a tube amplifier, negative is 0, is ground. Positive is positive, everything above ground. In a solid state BTL design, negative is the opposite of positive, but negative is not ground, it's floating above ground. So if you connect the negative of a solid state power amp, and most Class D, most affordable Class D power amps do this, float the negative above ground. If you short the negative to ground, the power amp will shut down because it doesn't like that. Part of the amplifier output circuitry is being shorted to ground, and it basically turns the power amp off. So the only time that will actually work is if you plug it directly into speaker cab. If you go through switching systems or mix cabs and loads and stuff like together, where in any case a speaker output is referenced to ground, that shouldn't be, the Class D or Class AB power amp that uses the BTL construction will shut down or fail or cause some damage. So most reactive loads are referenced to ground unless they're connected to the power amp in such a way that they're not touching any other grounded source or destination. And that's, you have to be very careful about that. Once you do that, and the other thing is because the solid state power amp will try to reject the behavior of the reactive load, you're not going to get the benefit of it. So, I mean, on pretty much about every level, it's not worth the effort.
All right.
In my opinion. In my opinion.
Steve.
Yes.
What are the greatest myths about power amps?
Oh. Richard, you're killing me. I'll tell you what. Next show.
No, not the next show.
The next show after the next show. Come back and list 5 myths that you want busted, and I'll bust those.
Oh, that's a good one.
Otherwise, we'll be here till midnight, and we're already at 3 hours.
Yeah, I know we got to get.
But thanks
off,
for the
but
question.
We're trying to blow through these without taking them too lightly. Okay, in the design process, what considerations are taken in mind to make sure that the components will have a life cycle that ensures the longevity of your products?
That's another show. You're a deep motherfucker, but that's another show. We don't, I could get into that. I will gladly get into that, but this is the lightning round, and that's not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's not something that we can discuss today.
And the next one is from Richard. It's along those same lines. I mean, they're great questions. What, if any, compromises have you had to make from a cost perspective?
Okay, well, we discussed that. Actually, I saw that question earlier, and we discussed some of that in this show. So you probably got some of that feedback. And if you want me to go any deeper on that, we will.
Let's see. One thing I dig about a preamp separate from a power amp is that there's no need for an effects loop, right?
Thank you. And for all the people that ask for an effects loop where they don't need it, we have been discussing that since 1998. I want my preamp to have a stereo effects loop in it. Why don't you just take the preamp out, plug it into a stereo effects, and run it in 2 power amps? Because I want the effects loop. We've had that argument for decades.
Really?
We'll be happy to cover that too.
That's wild to me.
So, okay, Richard, I want you to take your 5 most important to you questions, and then 2 shows from now, put them all in one list, and we'll bang them off all at once.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Well, can you post that coffee martini recipe?
Sure can. Actually, Nika-chan, why don't you jump on and post that coffee martini recipe?
Ratio is 1:1:1.
1:1:1.
Yeah.
She says the ratio is 1 to 1 to 1, and that would mean an ounce of coffee to an ounce of
1 shot. I'm using
using a shot glass, a shot of coffee, a shot of
Mr. Black,
Mr.
cold brew
Black.
coffee liqueur.
coffee liqueur, a shot
of Belvedere.
of Belvedere
Yeah.
vodka,
A tiny bit of maple syrup in it.
a tiny bit of maple syrup, like a less than a teaspoon, like maybe half a teaspoon or less,
Half a teaspoon, yeah. I don't like it really.
And
sweet.
then- and then take some and then shred some
Lemon peel.
dark chocolate.
That was the
That's
first one.
last one. But
Yeah.
I don't really care about.
I like that.
Or
Well, there's two
regular.
versions. We did one with and without. Slice a piece of lemon skin and twist it on top, and then sprinkle shredded
And I'm not using the coffee. Espresso.
espresso, not coffee, espresso.
You know, I did one last week with coffee versus espresso. It's bad. Coffee's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Espresso is the way.
Espresso. Has to be
Yeah.
espresso.
Agreed. Okay. Any chance of outsourcing to produce a line overseas to make something more affordable?
Next show, the next after next show.
All right. Yeah, the next after next show. And by the way, the next show is going to be next week.
Yeah, but that's not going to be the show. We're going to talk about technical stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And right now, really, honestly, Richard, overseas, affordable, tariffs, craziness, chaos. There's no good answer for that right at the moment. So it's going to take us a couple weeks to see what else happens.
We had a lot of pickup talk in the chat tonight. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. We better
Um,
bang this out because I'm going to have to run to the little boys' room if there's going to be more.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the end here.
And Richard, I appreciate the fact that you feel like you're getting honest answers, and I will do my best to address some of your issues because you really are asking good questions.
Yeah, they really are. Man. Got any jokes?
Scott Brockway. 4 shots of your favorite espresso and 2 shots of Everclear. Now,
Here we go. Can you manipulate a Class D power amp to sound better?
yes. I'm not going to tell you what I think about that right at the moment.
Do MOSFETs react differently than transistors?
It's irrelevant, actually. They do behave a little differently, but then you design them in a circuit where they accomplish what you need them to accomplish in the different way that they operate. But overall, the topology of solid state power amplifiers is irrelevant because the power supply still overregulates everything. And
You're running to the bathroom. All right, the next one that we're going to put up, guys, Buck Wild's question about the diesel. I'm assuming that, let's see, I don't even know anything about that amp. Did they incorporate multi-effects into the amp? I guess that's what it is. All right, we'll see what Steve has to say about that. Anything going on here that's... Oh, still no snake in the bottom. What are we talking about here? Are we back on spirits? True has a backline for next week. Where are you playing? Is that an East Coast gig where Neil's pulling out the backline? And then what's the spirit talk going on? Sorry, I'm stuck. I have on my computer, I have all of the the backlog of questions, and then I see what's new right up here, right in front of me. So I can't scroll back and see what you guys were talking about. Oh, Cool. And are you guys working on an album right now? Is there something coming out? Yeah, well, the more shows thing, guys, is September is going to be really spotty. I'm going to Europe. I know Steve's out of town in a couple different spots. I think the next show after next week is going to be towards the end of September. So we just wanted to pack 2 in before we left. So that's the deal there.
Geez, I thought we were going to be at Fish and Chips by now.
Fish and chips,
Because
yeah.
I haven't eaten dinner yet. So like I'm.
Well, we can call it if you're like totally, because I got to get home to my dog too.
Look, people are hanging, and we don't
went
like.
long. We went long.
We don't. We're trying not to go long, but you guys are like, we can tell when people don't want us to go any longer because the
Drops down.
It just drops.
2 people. Yeah. Did you ever try the diesel VHX?
No.
Okay. So.
But the deeper question is, any thoughts on what?
On implementing digital effects into it, like right into the amp itself.
Yes, I have thoughts about that. We'll get to there. I won't get into it today, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun combo.
Okay. All right.
Skippers in Seattle.
Okay.
So you mentioned Ivers, so you must be talking about Seattle. And the best fish and chips when I was growing up in Seattle was H Salt. And then I think and then was it Skippers that had all you can eat Tuesday? Boy, we lived off of that in Seattle and when that place was going. And then Ivers kind of like took a back seat to H Salt and Skippers because it was so cheap and you could just gorge yourself on it. We literally survived in Seattle off of fish and chips for probably 2 years because these 3 different fish and chip chains were all competing and the price was going down. Now, I mean, you could go to this one place and literally eat until you just had to go to an emergency room for like $2 or $3. It was like insane.
Wow.
The amount of we would just like go there and just keep eating until we literally had to walk home to walk it all off. So we didn't drive. We took the bus to the place and pigged out to the point where we had to be rolled out of the place and then try to partially digest it on the bus ride home. That was great stuff. Those are the days.
Those are the days. Not happening now. All right. In case it hasn't been asked yet, when is the 2150 being re-released? And how many arms and legs should I set aside to buy 3 here?
Okay. This is going to be one place where I will break precedent and say that we are working on that. I think we did say that we were going to do that this year, and we are going to do it. Whether or not we get it out before the end of the year or in January, it's coming. 2 things about this. The original 2150, if we made it exactly the way we made it then, you would be hawking organs and shit to be able to buy it. And that's not really the goal. It never was originally the goal. The original 2150 started out as the concept was going to be that it was efficient and affordable. It was never intended to be high-end. That high-end thing got foisted upon us. And like I said at the beginning of the show with the conversation with Tom Anderson, he kind of enlightened me to the fact that, well, it became that because that's what you were doing, whether you knew it or not. You were raising the bar on the design level and the sonic level and all these things that you applied to it. You were raising the bar on the community and yourself, and you weren't all that aware of it at the time. So it just naturally rose to the top out of people's recognition that it was occupying this place that nothing else was occupying. I wasn't aware of that at the time. I was just trying to make.
And it was the first one you'd ever.
And it was the first one ever made. So I had no reference point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just seems like we should do this.
Yeah.
And like, well, the first band after the 2150 came out, the very first band that toured with it and called and said, our rack fell out of the back of the truck somewhere in Oklahoma and rolled down the street, and the only thing that survived was the 2150. That was vindication for me. I went, yes, but I didn't know that was going to happen until it happened. So the new 2150 that's going to be coming out is going to be built with the same ethos, which is, it's not about sticking it to the end user, cost wise. It's about making it as good as we can possibly make it without making it unnecessarily expensive or unattainable. It's not supposed to be unattainable. Guitar players need to get the gear that they need to get the best expression of themselves, and we're going to do our damnedest to make sure that they get it. And it's not all about price. Is it going to be more expensive than the cheapest shit on the market? Sure. Is it going to be unnecessarily expensive? Are we going to ram it to people because we can? Absolutely not. That's not me. That's not us. You don't feel that way? Nobody at the company feels that way. We always feel like we'll make the best thing that we can and try to put it in the marketplace in a way that it's accessible to the end users and that we can make a fair return producing it. We're not greedy pigs. And that's really just all there is to it. So that hopefully answers your question.
Oh,
People talking about Team Seattle. So show me the page first.
Team Seattle. I was just in Seattle recently, as I said, to see my uncle Jan for the last time because he was on his way onto another place. So we went to see him, and on the way back, went to the airport, and I went, I'll take one of those. They just happen to have a bunch of stuff that I like this time, which they don't usually. So thus the Boeing hat, I got a Seattle hat, I got a couple Seattle t-shirts. So yeah, I'm representing.
All right, this is from the same person about the 2150. Will the re-release of the 2150 have a bridge mono mode, and how much of a redesign would that be?
I don't know that would really be necessary. It's not a difficult stretch at all. It would be the same technology that we put in the LX2. We haven't gotten that far along in the development to even consider that. It's certainly a consideration. Here's the problem with the bridge mono thing in tubes is we could go on and on and on, and we will, trust me. Down the road, a show or two, we'll talk about what the bridge mono thing really means, because it's going to tie into this conversation.
I think we need to do a power amp talk part 2.
Yeah, I think so, because the solid state thing, some of the issues related to solid state power amps revolve around impedance, and a bridge mono mode in a tube amplifier also revolves around impedance. For example, if you have a 4, 8, and 16 ohm output on each channel of a tube power amp, when you combine the channels because you have output transformers, now when they're combined together in bridge mono, it's different than solid state bridge mono. They're actually parallel on the output, and that means 4, 8, and 16 becomes 2, 4, and 8. And now the customer is going, well, what about 16? What if I'm using 16? So there's always that little, we talk about compromises, we talk about getting and giving, that's one of those roadblocks that we need to think about. Do we want to knock on that door?
Yeah.
Because whenever it comes to designing a new product and we go, gee, do we want to knock on that door? Because we know it's going to be interesting, and we know that there's going to be something on the other side of that door that's going to kick us in the ass that we never even considered.
Yeah.
So that's the fun part, and it's also the aggravating part.
All right, and with that, we got to get the hell down the road.
I'm hungry. Gosh, thanks
That was
all
fun.
of you people for hanging out for so long.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Great questions. And
we'll
Great
do,
to hang with you again, Joe.
always. We will do a Power Amp Talk part 2, but not next week. We will be on next week. Have
got
a special
special
show
show.
coming up for sure. And we can't wait to see you again in a week.
Some shout outs. I want to shout out to Tim Pierce for the very cool video, and we're going to be doing an interview with him.
Yeah, we're going to bring him on the show.
We're going to bring him on, and I want to do a shout out to That Pedal Show. They did a knockout demonstration of the different reampers, attenuator things. Those guys, they did an amazing job. So check that out, and that was really a perfectly timed sort of exercise from them. Thank you for that, and all the
Yeah.
other guys. We got Joe Wyatt, who's doing a factory tour that's going to be showing up any day. And then we got Michael Nielsen that we did an interview with him. That's going to be showing up sometime in the next week. And then we've got a bunch of other things coming up. We got material running out of our
ton of stuff.
behinds.
Yeah.
So you're going to be seeing a lot of cool content from us in the next several weeks. Like, describe. Have to keep saying this stuff because we really want you to be here for this. It's going to be good.
Is that it
Oh,
for this week?
is that it?
I think that's it.
How do you know?
Because I have the button right here. It says
You
end
have the
stream.
button.
Yeah. I
You have the button.
Ready?
Hit the button.
Push the button.